Alchemize your energy. Darling, let your spirit be free. Don't give up. Keep on pushing through. Now is the time. It's all up to you. Alchemize your energy. My friend, let your spirit be free. Don't give up. Keep on pushing through. Now is the time. It's all up to you. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, we will always take flight. Keep on pushing through the darkness of night. There's no limit, let's reach for the sky. Shine so bright, from darkness to light.
All right. Let's hold on. I didn't realize it's gonna be like, oh boom, alchemizing energy like overlay. Okay. So there was an interview with Candace Owens and Don Lemon, and I really wanted to cover this because I think it's really important. It's a lot of stuff going on right now. I mean, it's a lot of things going on with like earthquakes and like weather and stuff. But me being a follower of the news, I kind of saw this interview and I wanted to like just discuss it. So let's talk about it. Let's like just get into it.
You say I find, and again I'll give you a chance to explain them, that I think that are divisive and may sort of contradict what you're saying.
So you know your entire perspective has been pro BLM, and your entire perspective on your network has been essentially that it was totally fine for the officers that were bludgeoned, the officers that were killed, the officers all throughout New York City in the BLM riots. You even had, you know, Yale graduates.
Can we keep the focus?
Please let me finish. I just allowed you to finish. I just think it's nice to allow me to finish. It's I'm a guest on your show. Like I said, I'm just dizzy because I can't figure out whether or not you care about police officers.
Young people and old people who are trans, right? And they are not pretending. And it is not a mental disorder.
Oh, it is pretending because you will literally never be able, if you are a little boy, to grow up and have a baby because you're not a little girl.
So what you're saying is, oh, you know what? The Holocaust.
As you can see, this got heated. So let's go into it. Let me like forward it a little bit because that's the intro to it. So let's go into the actual interview.
And we can always get to that because that can be kind of boring. But I mean, do you feel like after you left the other platform that you were on, do you feel different? Has your attitude or anything about life or your political beliefs, or has that changed at all?
It hasn't changed. I would probably say that I experienced more of an internal sea change at the beginning of last year, when I was still on my other platform. And I think people saw that toward the end of me being on the other platform. And there was just, you know, and the show was performing really well and really strong. And I think it was because I had kind of broken with this idea that it's always like left versus right, and in a way that just welcomed more people into the show. So I personally changed, probably starting at the beginning of last year, I would say.
You know, there were people who were saying, because you went on to the Breakfast Club, right? Mm-hmm. And they were saying, oh my gosh, Candace Owens is Black again. She's going to come back to the Black community and she's going to be Black. And that's the way she's going to reemerge, much the same way that people said that I was going to be red-pilled when I came back to, you know, whatever, the streaming and what have you. Is that, are you Black again? Do you feel that? What do you think about that?
People are going to be so shocked to learn this, and I guess I'll just announce it here, but I've always been Black. So it's like a thing. Every day I've just been Black my whole life. And it was interesting to see people take that narrative, because some people were like, she was doing this because, you know, she decided to be Black because she knew she was going to get fired. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I went on the network because I got invited to go on for the first time ever. That was just my luck. And I think it was in response to me having done Joe Budden's podcast, and Joe Budden said something nice about me on his podcast, and I reached out on my podcast. So that was all very natural. And when I went on the Breakfast Club, I still said what I always think. I think people may have heard it different. And again, I think that is in large part due to the fact that Americans are growing tired of the hostility left versus right, and people are starting to listen to different ideas and seeing that we probably have more in common than the mainstream media would have allowed us to believe in the past.
Okay, you say that, but there are some things that you say I find, and again, I'll give you a chance to explain them, that I think that are divisive and may sort of contradict what you're saying. But before we get there, can we talk news of the day, politics of the day, and then we'll get into that? Is that cool?
Sure.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the breaking news. The first Democratic senator publicly questioning President Joe Biden, his election chances, after 7 House lawmakers broke party ranks and urged the 81-year-old to step aside. It's Colorado Senator Michael Bennet. He told my own network, and he said this on the record, Candace, that he expects the president to lose to Donald Trump by a landslide, and he heavily suggested that Joe Biden should end his candidacy. So then, Candace, this happened on MSNBC. Let's watch.
Does he have your support to be the head of the Democratic ticket?
As long as the president has it's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short. I think overwhelming support of the caucus. It's not for me to say. I'm not the head of the caucus anymore. But he's beloved. He is respected, and people want him to make that decision. Not me.
He has said he has made the decision. He has said firmly this week he is going to run. Do you want him to run?
I want him to do whatever he decides to do, and that's the way it is. Whatever he decides, we go with.
Okay, so some people said, "Hey, wait a minute. She's not exactly saying Joe Biden."
First, I want to say shouts out to Cornel West. Cornel West for president, because I don't know why no one thinks that there's any other presidential candidates other than Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Shouts out to Cornel West and his presidential run. I just want to give some shouts out to Cornel, because everybody's like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he has no chance, so I'm not going to vote for him. But shouts out to Cornel West. He's running for president, y'all. Please support Cornel in his efforts. You know what I'm saying? Please support him. Okay? Because Cornel West, honest to goodness, when he really talks, he has a better, I believe between both candidates, he has more like of a grasp on what needs to be done for the community. Please support Cornel West in his presidential run. Cornel West for president. We need visionary and courageous presidential leadership. You understand what I'm saying? So I just want to just go ahead and play this video right now.
We have to have people who are in solidarity, who get beyond their petty differences and be able to hold hands symbolically and literally and fight by straightening your back up.
It takes tremendous discipline, takes a tremendous courage to think for yourself, to examine yourself. That Socratic imperative of examining yourself requires courage. You know, William Butler Yeats used to say, it takes more courage to examine the dark corners of your own soul than it does for a soldier to fight on the battlefield. Courage to think critically. Courage is the enabling virtue for any philosopher, for any human being, I think, in the end.
People to carry out nonviolent civil disobedience. A couple of dozen people linked arms and were arrested.
Princeton University professor Cornel West was one of 19 people arrested on the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court during a protest against money in politics.
You're joking! Are you denying us access to a public building?
And we here because we want to keep the family center stage. Whiteness can't be reduced to white supremacy. You got a whole lot of white brothers and sisters fighting against white supremacy.
We got a choice between neo-fascists like Brother Trump or milquetoast neoliberals like Brother Biden. Wow, well, I'm so happy to make a world-shaking decision. You know what I mean?
You almost agree with me.
No, not at all.
Your solar plexus winds towards my direction.
No.
I got it wrong.
All right.
You got to come back more often. We miss you.
Democrats feeding the Republicans, Republicans feeding the Democrats, and yet poor people, working people, finding themselves pushed to the margin.
I believe a Palestinian baby has the same value as an Israeli baby.
We have solidarity in the face of catastrophe. Let us march together. Let us fight together. Let us laugh together. Let us dance together. Let us smile together. Let us cry together. We will not allow the organized greed to have the last word. Love supreme or love supreme.
Shouts out to Cornel West and what he's trying to do. Shouts out to people that are really trying to make a change in this whole situation. And let's get back to this conversation.
As many Democrats are saying that Joe Biden is in that, he is the candidate. We stand by our candidate, and he's not exactly emphatic about it. Do you disagree with that? What do you think?
No, she's not emphatic about that statement at all. But what I would say is that when I watch that, there's something about it that feels performative to me. And I think a lot of people feel that way, that suddenly everybody's pressed the button and it's like throw Joe Biden under the bus and pretend that we just found out at the debate that he was mentally deteriorating. I actually was covering today on my show how George Clooney, I don't know if you saw this, but he wrote an op-ed.
Can we just, why do we only think that there's only two presidential candidates? Why do we think this way? Why don't we look at other candidates that are in other parties? Why are we only stuck on Joe Biden and Trump? And no offense to Trump, he just got shot in his head or whatever, in his ear or whatever. It grazed him, whatever. Not to be have some level of what's the word? Being having some care about it. But I'm like, dude, bro, there's other candidates. Even though this was done before the whole Trump thing, to me, I think it's because the Democratic Party will not challenge him. Ashe. It's only about Democrat versus Republican. I don't think that's fair when you have other candidates running that can't even get on the ballot in certain states in the United States because of the restrictions of how this thing goes when it comes down to running for president. The reason why Cornel West is having such a hard time is because he can't even, you have to have 1 million here, this, that, the other, all this bull stuff to even run correctly. It's so much money involved and so much red tape. So I just, not to sound like I'm ranting, but go ahead.
Out of the New York Times, essentially being very kind. I love Joe Biden, all this stuff. I saw him weeks ago at a fundraiser and he just wasn't the same and he can't go on and he's calling for Joe Biden to step aside. And the question is, okay, you saw him at a fundraiser weeks ago. Why didn't you write this op-ed weeks ago? Why did you wait until the debate? So a lot of people are questioning whether or not there's already been a decision made and everyone already knows he's going to step aside. And
open panel guys, come on up if you want to discuss it.
And they're just kind of prepping the public on that statement. And I know that's might seem cynical to you, but that's definitely what it looks like to me. I mean, we've been saying this about his mental health for years. Why are people just listening now?
There is a difference, though, Candace, between something, and that doesn't mean that someone can do the job, but hear me out here. There's a difference between something that happens to people naturally, right? We all get older. I have trouble sometimes recalling things that, I'm like, oh, what's that senator again? What's that name again? And that happens to the best of us. But there is a difference between that and someone who is, a perpetual liar, doesn't believe in democracy, or is an election denier. Those two things are not equal. And I think that is the premise of what Democrats are operating on right now. Joe Biden may not be the man he was 5 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago, but he's still better than the alternative.
Yeah, obviously I fundamentally disagree with your assessment. And I think it's very strange coming from a party where Hillary Clinton denied the election results for years. I mean, and
Joe Biden is better than the alternative. The only other alternative, I'm sorry, okay, so the only other alternative is Donald Trump. Why are we not looking at other candidates in other parties? Why are we just so stuck on two party? We need to stop this. It's bull stuff. It's bull.
Said that her election was stolen from her. It's very weird for people to suddenly just not remember that. Sometimes it feels like the press.
There was no insurrection around that. I mean, she eventually.
Well, now you're accusing him of the insurrection. He has nothing to do with.
No, I said, but there was no insurrection around that. I didn't mention.
You can say that or not, but you just said he's an election denier. Okay, well that would put Hillary Clinton in the exact same camp. And so it's very weird when there seems to be this sort of Men in Black memory wipe where people pretend that suddenly Trump was the first person who questioned election results when that's been going on for a very long time in America and nobody cared about that.
Hear me out here. There's a difference between questioning an election, the results of an election, which happened with Al Gore and George Bush, than having almost every court in the land disagree with the assessment that the election was stolen. There's a difference between questioning an election than saying it was stolen. There's a difference between someone saying, I thought I should have won, and there were, I had all these wins that were, that were not at my back, than someone saying, you know what, the election was stolen and that these people are heroes who actually desecrated the Capitol and beat up police officers, and a police officer ended up dying. That's a whole different thing. Those two are not equal.
So your old network even debunks the points that you just made. Obviously, the person that died that day was Ashley Babbitt. The only person who died on that day.
My old network does not debunk that.
They absolutely. I covered it on my show. Even
no,
CNN.
I work there. They do not. They do not.
Well, I have my computer. Do you want me to bring it up live? The CNN article where they debunked that Brian, who you're talking about, the police officer, died that day. He didn't.
I didn't
die
say he
that
died
day.
that day. I said
okay, correct. Let me finish this. You said he died because you're trying to make people believe it had something to do with what happened. He died of a stroke, a completely unrelated stroke, days later. So that narrative that was quickly pushed out by CNN was then subsequently debunked. So the only person that died that day was Ashley Babbitt, and Ashley Babbitt was a Trump supporter. So only a Trump supporter died on that day. Regarding the insurrection narrative, there are questions that still have not been answered that seem implausible to me. I happened to be on that day in DC, 9 months pregnant, and it's just stunning to me that that whole summer DC burned and nobody cared, and then suddenly people are talking about an insurrection and nobody is asking the common sense question of why the FBI, while they can lock up grandmas for having walked into the Capitol, some of these charges are heinous. Absolutely heinous. You see these people on camera just for simply walking in at the beckoning of security guards who allowed them in, were put into prison for a very long time. So I'll ask you the question: do you think it's a legitimate stance, or that it's legitimate that the FBI can't figure out who it was that dropped off pipe bombs the night before?
No, I don't think that any of what you said is very relevant, because the facts
speak for themselves.
No, I don't think that it's relevant. I think talking about the FBI is really deflecting the attention from what really happened. A friend of mine, Michael Fanone, was a police officer who fought that day, who had a heart attack, who had a head injury, was beaten with flagpoles and beaten with sticks by people who were in that crowd. The officer who died of a stroke, shortly after. It's surprise. I think that it would be tough to say that the stress that he suffered from that did not have something to do with it. Ashley Babbitt broke into the Capitol. It's awful that anybody died. Police officers, you see the tape on camera, telling everyone to stand down as she tried to enter. She was not complying. As people say, when police officers or officials tell you to do something, one should comply. And when she tried to break into the Capitol and defy the officers' commands, they did what they had to do, and she ended up dying. It's awful that it happened, but to say that she died, and I assume insinuate that it was because of some nefarious actions by the officers, I just think that is beyond the pale and does not actually fit a solid narrative of what actually happened.
Well, it's very dizzying. I'm actually dizzy right now because your entire perspective has been pro BLM, and your entire perspective on your network has been essentially that it was totally fine for the officers that were bludgeoned, the officers that were killed, the officers all throughout New York City in the BLM riots. You even had Yale graduates.
Can we keep the focus?
Please let me finish. I just allowed you to finish. I just think it's nice to allow me to finish, and I'm a guest on your show.
But I want you to.
You had them throwing bombs, literally
and not on
Molotov
BLM.
cocktails in the very same summer that you're talking about the insurrection. Molotov cocktails were thrown into police cruisers
Candace,
during the BLM George Floyd riots. You didn't seem to have the same sensitivity toward police officers.
We're not talking about BLM. Can we?
But it's relevant because it was happening in the exact same city.
Okay.
And so suddenly, like I said, I'm just dizzy because I can't figure out whether or not you care about police officers or you don't care about them, because now you're sharing emotional stories and now you're cutting me off when I want to share one about a Molotov cocktail that was thrown into a police cruiser in New York by some college graduates, in the media platform that you were on cheered it on because this was about justice. But suddenly when it's patriots, you want to talk about the sad stories of the police officers. You're now saying that because you don't comply, you can get shot. That's fine if that's your perspective. And Ashley Babbitt wasn't complying, but then we should probably revisit the George Floyd riots.
Americans can be deemed as patriots in this country. Even
okay, well, I don't know why you're cutting me off. I haven't cut you off. I'm just trying to get out my point.
I'm trying to tell you because we have very limited time. And the reason I'm cutting you off is because I want you to stick to the subject, because you're deflecting and you're talking about BLM.
I'm not deflecting. I'm not deflecting.
Let me make a point across. And BLM has nothing to do with the insurrection. We're talking about the events that happened in Washington.
I just want to know what the definition of an insurrection is, because when I was living in DC and the BLM was pulling down statues, they were marching on Washington, the media was fine with it. So it's confusing because the Brett Kavanaugh hearings and the women were storming into the Capitol. They were lining in the hallways.
I'm dizzy now because I'm
really confused about when it's an insurrection and when it's not an insurrection, because the Brett Kavanaugh hearings definitely looks like the definition of an insurrection when they were chasing down senators in hallways trying to stop them from voting. But for some reason, the media supported that because #MeToo. Again, I'm just trying to get a consistent definition of when it's okay to storm the Capitol building and when it's not okay to storm the Capitol building because it's an insurrection.
Candace, we're not talking about BLM. And we're not.
We're never talking about anything Democrats
I want to get back on
do.
the subject because this is not helping anyone. This conversation is not helping anyone. So let's get back on the subject. BLM and what happened has.
Candace so I have it sped up. Let me know if it's too sped up to even understand what she's saying, because she's just now I actually am on Candace's side a lot of the time because she do speak the truth sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, I be agreeing with her on some things. You know what I'm saying? But she talks so fast, like child, slow down. Okay. It's crazy to have this on just a little bit faster, and it just sounds like mumbo jumbo to me. So I get it that she's saying about the storming of the Capitol, and she's trying. I don't get this liberal versus Republican conservative debate. Like, people only have two choices. It's crazy to me. Hey, MD, go ahead. Go ahead, speak your piece. I gotta go answer the door. Go ahead, say what you're thinking. Go ahead. Go ahead, MD. MD Revo. Thank you. Thank you for joining the panel. Go ahead.
You want me to go ahead with what?
Give your opinion on what's going on right now.
All right, so I just came in, so I'm kind of like missing, but that point right part with
Don. I'll bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back a little bit. Yeah.
Regarding the insurrection narrative, there are questions that still have not been answered that seem implausible to me. I happened to be on that day in DC, 9 months pregnant, and it's just stunning to me that that whole summer DC burned and nobody cared, and then suddenly people are talking about an insurrection and nobody is asking the common sense question of why the FBI, while they can lock up grandmas for having walked into the Capitol, some of these charges are heinous. Absolutely heinous. You see these people on camera just for simply walking in at the beckoning of security guards who allowed them in, were put into prison for a very long time. So I'll ask you the question: do you think it's a legitimate stance, or that it's legitimate that the FBI can't figure out who it was that dropped off pipe bombs the night before?
No, I don't think that any of what you said is very relevant, because the facts speak for themselves. No, I don't think that it's relevant. I think talking about the FBI is really deflecting the attention from what really happened. A friend of mine, Michael Fanone, was a police officer who fought that day, who had a heart attack, who had a head injury, who was beaten with flagpoles and beaten with sticks by people who were in that crowd. The officer who died of a stroke, shortly after. It's surprise. I think that it would be tough to say that the stress that he suffered from that did not have something to do with it. Ashley Babbitt broke into the Capitol. It's awful that anybody died. Police officers, you see the tape on camera telling everyone to stand down as she tried to enter. She was not complying. As people say, when police officers or officials tell you to do something, one should comply. And when she tried to break into the Capitol and defy the officers' commands, they did what they had to do, and she ended up dying. It's awful that it happened, but to say that she died, and I insinuate that it was because of some nefarious actions by the officers, I just think that is, beyond the pale and does not actually fit a solid narrative of what actually happened.
Well, it's very dizzying. I'm actually dizzy right now because your entire perspective has been pro BLM, and your entire perspective on your network has been essentially that it was totally fine for the officers that were bludgeoned, the officers that were killed, the officers all throughout New York City in the BLM riots. You even had Yale graduates.
Can we keep the focus?
Please let me finish. I just allowed you to finish. I just think it's nice to allow me to finish, and I'm a guest on your show.
But I want you to.
You had them throwing bombs, literally
not on
Molotov
BLM.
cocktails in the very same summer that you're talking about the insurrection. Molotov cocktails were thrown into police cruisers
Candace,
during the BLM George Floyd riots. You didn't seem to have the same sensitivity toward police officers.
We're not talking about BLM.
But it's relevant because it was happening in the exact same city. Okay. And so suddenly, like I said, I'm just dizzy because I can't figure out whether or not you care about police officers or you don't care about them, because now you're sharing emotional stories and now you're cutting me off when I want to share one about a Molotov cocktail that was thrown into a police cruiser in New York by some college graduates, and media platform that you were on cheered it on because this was about justice. But suddenly when it's patriots, you want to talk about the sad stories of the police officers. You're now saying that because you don't comply, you can get shot. That's fine if that's your perspective. And Ashley Babbitt wasn't complying, but then we should probably revisit the George Floyd riots.
Americans can be deemed as patriots in this country. Even
okay, well, I don't know why you're cutting me off. I haven't cut you off. I'm just trying to get out my point.
I'm trying to tell you because we have very limited time. And the reason I'm cutting you off is because I want you to stick to the subject, because you're deflecting and you're talking about
I'm not deflecting. I'm not.
All right, so I know it kind of went a little bit further than we thought we were going to discuss, but let's go into what you think from this point on.
I know about Candace Owens, and I know about Don Lemon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
So the thing is like, in that debate type of situation and stuff like that, Don Lemon obviously knows that if he gets Candace Owens on a roll with facts and experiences and things like that, that she's really going to take over his show. Like, he know that. So what she's saying is, like, it is relevant, because if you're going to talk about insurrection, you're going to talk about what happened to the police, then she should be able to tell her story about what happened to the police as well, if he's going to use that argument too. You still there? Anybody there? Hello? I don't know what happened. What happened?
Oh, I was talking. I didn't know you couldn't hear me.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, damn, what happened? Go ahead.
All right. So you think that he baited her into this debate?
Yeah, he baited her. He baited her into the debate. But I mean, the thing is, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna throw something. I'm gonna throw a jab at you, right? I'm gonna throw a jab at you and hit you in your nose, whatever. And then she gets to throwing jabs back, and you're like, okay, hold on. You punching too fast. Wait, hold on, wait, slow down. He started getting knocked upside the head and shit, and now he want to not let her talk and say what she have to say after he been throwing them jabs.
Right. So that's an unfair debate. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get more into it. Let's go.
Let me make a point across. And BLM has nothing to do with the insurrection. We're talking about the events that happened in Washington.
I just want to know what the definition of an insurrection is, because when I was living in DC and the BLM was pulling down statues, they were marching on Washington, the media was fine with it. So it's confusing, because the Brett Kavanaugh hearings and the women were storming into the Capitol. They were lining in the hallways.
Now because
I'm really confused about when it's an insurrection and when it's not an insurrection, because the Brett Kavanaugh hearings definitely looks like the definition of an insurrection.
All right. So I'm sorry, your mic is like echoing back.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Is it still echoing? It's still echoing? Okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
It's every time I say something.
I don't even know. Should I come back in or whatever? I don't know. Let me see something.
Do you have YouTube in the background, like on another like tab or something? All right. Okay, you there?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Myself.
I hear myself. All right, I'm gonna try to call back in.
Okay, yeah.
Hold on.
Sorry, that got kind of crazy, but let's hear some more. As we go.
Direction when they were chasing down senators in hallways trying to stop them from voting, but for some reason the media supported that, because like #MeToo. But again, I'm just trying to get a consistent definition of when it's okay to storm the Capitol building and when it's not okay to storm the Capitol building because it's an insurrection.
Candace, we're not talking about BLM. And we're not.
We're never talking about anything Democrats
I want to get back
do.
on the subject, because this is not helping anyone. This conversation is not helping anyone. So let's get back on the subject. BLM and what happened has nothing to do, and we can litigate that and we can talk about that. This is not a conversation about BLM. This is a conversation about what happened on January 26th, and this is it's not about Brett Kavanaugh. Okay.
Well, they stopped to vote, so I just think that might be relevant to your insurrection.
Okay. So, do you believe the election was stolen? Because on July 21, you tweeted. This is July of 2021. You tweeted, "quote It has now been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris cheated in the 2020 election." Do you still believe the election was stolen? Because even Trump's own Justice Department, the Supreme Court, courts all over the land said that there was actually no evidence to substantiate a stolen election in 2020. It was
yes, I believe the election was stolen in 2020.
You do believe that?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you believe that?
Because it's pretty obvious that COVID was used as a mechanism to fundamentally change the way that people vote. They were passing through absurd legislation, essentially saying that every single person would get a mail-in ballot, even if they hadn't requested one. And then there was actually footage of people dropping off multiple mail-in ballots when the counting stopped in the middle of the night. So yes, I believe that our election was stolen. We don't have to wax poetic about it. We're not going to agree on this issue. You're going to get the talking points that,
No, I'm not going to get talking points. That's what I wanted to. I just want to get.
Yes, I still believe that.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering that. And that is where I want to keep this on the subject and not deflect to something else. And so, I don't work for CNN anymore. So, don't associate me with that because I don't work for CNN anymore. One of the reasons that I brought up that tweet to discuss, 2020 election and beyond is because do you think it's fair to say, I think that you've had a political evolution over the last couple of years. Do you think it's fair to say, I think that you've become much more conservative in your thinking and in your stance and things that you say. Do you think it's fair to say that you've become more outspoken and more conservative on issues over the last couple of years?
I think I've thought more and about what it actually means to be a conservative. And I would say that I've probably become infinitely more committed to my Christian faith. And so that might read as more conservative over the years. I think that's fair.
You've been more committed to your Christian faith. How does that play into your thoughts about politics?
When we think about conservatism, we think about tradition, it's traditionalism. And when I'm thinking about which traditions I want to uphold, it's the Catholic.
Yeah. Here we are. A regular or a guest star or something like that, and then from so on and so on. So yeah, I started from the bottom, built my way all the way.
What the experts tell them without thinking.
I had to slow it down because she talks so fast. I'm like, God dang, dude, slow down. All right. On half the speed, speed up, it's you can't even understand what the hell. All right, here we go.
Thinking. We saw this during COVID, so I'm very comfortable saying this. But if I had been saying this years ago, people would have been like, she's crazy. But this is what we mean when we say science. And by the way, these ideas, if you want someone even more brilliant than me who wrote about this, C.S. Lewis would be a great starting place. He termed this scientism, where the people that are in control of science create a faith. They create a faith by saying, well, the experts say 6 feet social distancing works. And so everyone starts walking around with 6 feet social distance between them until Fauci comes around like he did recently and say, we kind of made that up. We were just guessing. The experts say the COVID vaccine, if you get it, you will not transmit or be able to get COVID.
Exactly,
and then they go,
said,
actually, that wasn't true. So people, and without knowing that, subjected their bodies and said, okay, I'm going to get this vaccine. Then they say the science has changed. Well, if the science changes and you've already impacted your body, as many women, I did not get the COVID vaccine, and I'm not meaning to judge people who did, but a lot of my female friends were having menstruation issues, as we talked about on the show. A lot of my female friends had miscarriages, as we talked about on the show, simply because they trusted the experts, not because they actually knew.
You don't know that
the
for sure
science was
you don't know
accurate.
for sure that they had a miscarriage because of the vaccine.
First and foremost, they've already admitted that the vaccine, we're now past COVID era scientism. So they've admitted that the 6 feet social distancing was fraudulent science. They admitted that the masking was fraudulent
realize you're looking
science.
at something in hindsight. Hindsight is 2020 in your Monday morning.
Well, that's the point. And until you get hindsight, it's just a faith. And that is what I am talking about on my show. It is just a faith. People placed faith. It was not a science. It was a faith. Okay.
You said a
real
phase
science,
or faith?
So that's a faith. You just believe it. You can't see it. You trust the person. You trust this person who is a science, who's a doctor, who you've enacted as the Lord in your life, and you shouldn't do that. Common sense to me when I was a kid. Common sense to me when I was a kid, like when people were pushing birth control pills on me when I turned 15, every time I went to the doctor, women who are watching this will relate. They're suddenly like, birth control, you got a pimple, birth control. So I didn't need to trust the science or the experts I just said to myself, yeah, probably not a good idea to microdose yourself with hormones every single day.
What does that have to do with a worldwide pandemic and epidemic where people were?
I'm answering the clip that you just showed. I'm putting this into context.
I know, but you're going.
Yeah.
I want
but because that's also what I talked about on my show. This is the beauty of actually watching a full episode and not using a clip. And so I said, now for me, it's going to require a little bit more than a faith, right? Because I'm realizing scientism just gets people to do things based on emotion without actually, and just going, trust the experts, trust the experts. I'm not trusting the experts on anything anymore, okay? I'm going to actually take a look at things and actually try to discern something by myself. Because the experts have lives.
Isn't that based on emotion?
People got myocarditis. Kids died from heart attacks, and they admitted after the fact that they knew that could be a risk. And first, they gaslit the moms who were saying it happened.
And that is not true. But
what do you mean it's not true? There was a kid who won a lawsuit for myocarditis. He quite literally, you can look this up on Yahoo News. Myocarditis. He actually won. The government had to pay him. I believe it was in the Philippines, who had to actually pay him. And after that point, after that lawsuit, they started putting the warning on the vaccines that it can cause myocarditis. So it doesn't help. It doesn't help if you're saying that you're no longer a part of the establishment, you're doing your podcast, at least acknowledge the things that even they have acknowledged now, that it causes myocarditis, that it can impact menstruation. Anything that is impacting
I never said I wasn't part of the establishment, by the way. I said I did not work for CNN, but go on.
Okay. So okay. I'm glad you're admitting you're part of the establishment.
No, I mean, I don't believe that I'm part of an establishment, any sort of establishment. You would have to,
That was wonderful.
Is that I belong to some part of an establishment. I do not. But I also say the things that you're saying are also that's based on emotion, and you're comparing a woman who can volunteer to take a birth control pill as opposed to a worldwide pandemic where people are dying. And science does evolve, just like the world evolves. And we learn more about things, just as the science around cancer and HIV, that's all evolving and it's improving. So over time, science evolves, it improves. So I don't understand the obsession with people who say, oh, I didn't do this, and they feel really good about possibly even harming their fellow man by not wanting to do things that's supposed to help the greater good. To me, that is the most un-American and most unpatriotic thing that a person can do.
Yeah, well, actually, the most un-American thing would be Marxism, and that's a Marxist philosophy that you do things for the greater good.
Yeah.
And it's fundamentally absurd. You should make sure that
You
what
should
you
be
are
selfish
doing
and
is
just do things for yourself.
it's not selfish. It's not selfish. It's actually the opposite to say that you should inject something into your body simply because this person says so. And by the way, the science
No, you don't.
evolving
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that you don't
selfish to
understand.
ask
That people don't understand.
to offer their bodily autonomy in order to maintain their jobs.
But see, I think that's false, Candace.
It is
no, because there was
which part is false?
mandate. You did not have to order people. If you did not want to take the vaccine, you did not have to take it. If you don't want to take a vaccine,
and many people lost their jobs. OSHA tried to mandate it, and then they had
that's not a mandate.
I don't know what planet he lives on, but yeah, I was forced to get the puncture because my job was like, if you don't get it, you can't work here. So I don't get what he's saying. Like, these people sometimes are so out of touch with what's really going on. You know what I'm saying? They don't even know what's really happening in society. You know what I'm saying?
You can voluntarily not do it.
It's a threat. It's a threat. We're not mandating it, but just so you know, you're going to lose your entire life and not be able to feed your family.
You lose your entire life.
I mean, that's kind of a little.
If I did not take a vaccine, ridiculous. I would not be.
Hey, Kaz, welcome to the panel. What's up?
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, good. I was just going to say, first of all, it's so nice to speak to you. I've been watching you for a while.
Oh, you have? Wow. Thank you for.
Yes. But I was actually listening to this on my way to work last week. She had a portion of her interview on her podcast, and I was able to listen to it. I didn't hear all this part, excuse me, because she went straight to the part where he was trying to get her to say the F word. So that's why I asked you, had you gotten to that part yet? But he bold-faced lied right here when he said that it wasn't mandated. I live in New York City. Yes, the hell it was.
Thank you.
I mean,
was it not?
You know,
you couldn't get on a plane, a train. Listen.
Yes, you were.
Nothing.
It was like the scarlet letter out here at one point, because not only that, the fact that you had to have a vaccine card on you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You had to walk around like back in the days when we had the immunization records. We had to walk around with those vaccine cards. And then at where I work, in order to get into the building, okay, you had to stand in the line and show security your vaccine card. You had to get cleared with the temperature. You know, they had to take your temperature, all of that. So, and then when New York City mayor at the time, de Blasio, he was like, listen, you don't get vaccinated when the vaccines were available, you're going to lose your job. Firefighters, police, everybody was protesting. Everybody was in the streets, and a lot of people ended up losing their jobs. So that, he lied right there.
Yeah.
It was mandated.
I mean, they didn't say it was mandated, but.
Right, but it was look, you don't have to say that it's mandated. All you have to say is, we won't hire you. You understand what I'm saying? And because it's a pandemic, a global pandemic, that's their protection, the employer's protection, because it's a global pandemic. So how can you go against that?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, and me, like I said, I was like forced to because it was like I had just gotten a new job after being unemployed for some time, and I had a choice: do I get this
Right.
job or do I like not get the pokey poke? So I
Exactly.
didn't get it. So
Exactly. Yep.
it might not have
So
been
I,
mandated by the government, but it was mandated by the corporation, and that's
yeah, and they were given and they were given leeway to do it. They were given leeway to do it because at the same, and then after a while, um, that just goes to show you, like during that whole time, we were really able to see, like the glasses were taken off, and you were really able to see how government and from the pharmaceutical company and big businesses, corporations, your local state government, how they all work together. You
yeah,
know, how they all work together because you had actual triage stations where there were nurses there to give you vaccines. You know what I mean? I work, where I work, I was blown away by that. Every day it was something different, coming in. You know what I mean? These things that you never thought you would see were there. Like it was crazy.
right. And who knows how many people like got the vax when they had to go to the hospital ER room and got
Right. And
like
then
diagnosed up.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you, I strongly believe because I had COVID. I caught COVID. Well, is it okay to say that? I know some people don't like to say it in different rooms. Is it okay to say that?
Just say I caught
The
the
the vid.
yeah, the vid. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so well, I'll say it, but you'll know what I'm talking about. So I got it, and it does attack whatever you have problems like. So if you have asthma, you have bronchitis, it does attack that. But I thank God I was okay. But I voluntarily took the vaccine when it first came out. I took it. I didn't take the booster because I was like, you know what? Why am I doing this? Because after a while, you're like, wait, I don't even know what this really is. But getting caught up in the madness and the fear and all of that, and just to turn around and get it anyway.
Right.
So,
And how do you have a VAX that's like, oh yeah, well you can still catch it, but you still
right, right. You're supposed to be, because when we're kids, we get everything, the full package, you know. And I've never gotten that. What is it? The MMR, the measles, TB, all of that, all of those nice things. I never had it a day in my life. Not to say that, because it's for everybody to each his own. If that's your choice, I don't condemn or judge anyone for whatever choice they make regarding any of these things. But, personally for me, in my experience, I've never caught any of those things. It's been over 30 years since I've had any of the standards, vaccines. And I've never, by the grace of God, have experienced pox, polio, rubella, all of those things. Where are they, by the way? But all of those things that we were vaccinated for in order to get into school, kindergarten, never experienced it. So, and now she's bringing up she made this point about this child in the Philippines who ended up having a heart attack, and then they had to put that disclaimer on the medication. That's some scary shit.
big time. Right.
That's some scary shit. you
And
know
my daughter, she got vaxxed when I got vaxxed. So I'm like over here, like, what the hell? I'm glad I didn't let my youngest daughter get back, but I like let my like teenager get back.
but you know what, DJ, the one thing that I must say, for me personally, ever since I did get it, because I got it, I want to say Let me think real quick. Let me think. Maybe the beginning of 21. So it had to be around the spring of 21 when I did get it. And I am not gonna lie to you, I have anxiety. I suffer from anxiety like most of us, but I have anxiety. And at the time it was, just mild. Ever since I took that vaccine, I have frequent, not, every day, but my anxiety attacks are far more frequent than they've ever been.
So let me tell you a secret that they're not telling you.
Hmm.
Nicotine patches. If you don't already smoke cigarettes, okay, because I will say this is that because if you smoke cigarettes and you do a nicotine patch, it could hurt you. You know what I'm saying? But
Huh.
nicotine, it breaks down the actual vaccine.
Ah,
That's why
okay.
smokers were not catching COVID because the COVID couldn't like permeate because nicotine.
Wow. Well, there is something
I
about that
believe,
nicotine. Go ahead.
I believe that's what saved me. You know what I'm saying? Because I had
Hmm.
COVID and I was pregnant, but I did smoke before I was pregnant. And right when,
Right.
yeah, so that I believe that is what exactly saved me.
But you know what? There might be some truth to that too, because I'm going to tell you this. I am a smoker. And like I said, I have asthma, but it's not chronic. And I also have anxiety. When I did get the V, um, I felt it trying to attack, like to trying to trigger the asthma, and it damn sure made me anxious. You know what I mean? I tell people, I don't know if it's capable of triggering anxiety attacks, but I felt the anxiety. I don't know if it's because I was worried about the asthma because I would feel my chest tightening up and the wheezing and all of that because I was sick at the time. But it did not. The thing is that why I say I there may be some truth to what you're saying is because I did not get as sick and it wasn't for as long. For
You
people
understand
that
what I'm
I
saying?
knew, right? For people
Now,
that I knew who did not smoke and did catch it.
not to encourage smoking, but I'm just saying, like for that
No,
situation,
absolutely not. Absolutely
I
not.
don't encourage it, but I'm just saying, like that's for this particular
Right,
situation.
right, right. So
So
I don't know.
I'm
That's interesting.
gonna play some more of this. So let's go.
Yeah.
Allowed to go to school. So because why? I was putting other people's lives in danger. So you
This is
can
going to
decide.
shock
You
you,
can
Don.
decide to
My kids are not
homeschool.
vaxxed.
You can
My
decide to
children
do
are
a
not
whole lot
vaxxed.
of things.
Yeah, and that's wrong.
But
By
that's
the
not a
way,
mandate.
that's wrong.
It's
That's
wrong
why I
for
moved to
you.
a state where there's medical freedom. And guess what? You can compare statistics in the states where they have the most unvaccinated children with states like California where they couldn't be more vaxxed. And so your entire philosophy that somehow the unvaxxed kids are harming the kids that are vaccinated is nonsensical. By the way,
Unvaxxed
how can you
people
say
in
in order for
general
my vaccine to work,
died.
you have to get a vaccine? What kind of science is that? If
Places
your
where
vaccine is
people were
working, then you don't have to
unvaccinated.
worry about unvaxxed kids. People are waking
Places
up to
where
this.
people were vaccinated had higher rates of death from COVID than other places.
That is
you can
simply
fact go on.
untrue. That is simply made up
That
statistics
is not made
suggested by
up.
the fact that they
Okay.
harmed a lot of people with
Okay.
not false science or evolving science, lies. They
Yeah.
straight up told people that if they got the vaccine, they were not going to get or transmit COVID. They lied, okay? They knew it was a lie because it required censorship to maintain the lie.
Candace,
They were
I
censoring
visited
independent voices who were
hospital
saying,
wards with people filled with people who did not take the vaccine and on their deathbeds. You know what they said to me? I wish that I had not listened to the people, to the QAnon and to the non-vaxxers and to those people. I wish I hadn't done it because maybe I wouldn't be in this hospital dying.
oh, that's so shocking that you were able to talk people on their deathbeds because people were not even able to see their loved ones that got the hospital.
Oh,
Girl,
whoa.
man, ate him up. Like what?
She is serving him. Oh my God.
Child. I said, what?
She has him so flustered the man keep taking his glasses on and off. He's rubbing his head. Oh God, typical black man start rubbing his head when he start getting under pressure.
Man, I had never seen nothing like this in my life. I was like, wow.
She got him
I hope
though.
this video don't get copyright struck, but I'm gonna say this is a commentary. This is a commentary. This is a commentary.
Yes.
Fair
Yes,
use.
yes, yes.
Fair use.
Hospitals were so locked down. So how were you able to speak to so many people on their deathbeds in hospitals in New York City?
No, this was not in New York City, as a matter of fact, and it was
Where were
after
you?
it was after the lockdown. It was at the hospital where I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And
Yeah,
if
it's quite
you can
shocking
go
because
back
they were
and look
not
at,
allowing in hospitals for people to even see
no,
their loved
they were
ones. And yet
allowing
you were
people.
able to talk to
You
people on their
forget,
dying bed.
you forget that there were
That was their death
phases.
wish to talk to Don Lemon about the vaccine. It seems like one of those
Candace,
stories when they
you're trying to
say, like,
explain to me where I
it
was
just
and
seems
what
like one of those
happened, and
fairy
you're
tale
not.
stories where they say,
Don't try
like,
to
on their
explain to me,
deathbed,
Candace.
she
This
said,
was
you know, I just don't
after.
really buy
This
that.
was
I don't really buy this,
after.
that you spoke to tons of people on their deathbeds.
Okay,
I just,
this was
I'm
after.
going to rate that false.
Okay, no, you're not going to rate it false because all you have to do is go back.
Was it
And
their
look.
last words
Go
too?
back and look. No,
Okay.
their last words were not to me, but some of their last words were to me because some of them died after I left the hospital. It was not when we had the lockdown. This was shortly after things started to open back up. We could actually travel on planes, when we could leave our houses, and there were still people in COVID wards. And I interviewed them when I worked for CNN, and they said, I wish that I had taken the vaccine because maybe I would not be dying. And their
Oh,
loved
okay.
ones afterwards
They allowed
they said
journalists
that
into
on their
into hospital
deathbed. So
wards.
what you're saying, I think, is
Fascinating.
completely.
Well, I just want
not
to share a
true.
story too. I too was allowed as a journalist into hospital wards, and people said to me on their deathbeds, I wish that I hadn't taken the vaccine
Mm.
because it didn't work, and I'm still dying
Yeah.
on this deathbed. So I had the
Well,
same thing happen to me.
it didn't
Same
work,
story.
and they're still
Yeah,
dying. from it.
yeah, I had the vaccine, and yet somehow I'm still on my deathbed. So clearly it didn't work. So that was I don't know. That's what they shared with me on their deathbed.
Okay, so if they wouldn't
I was
have
allowed
gotten,
into a
that
hospital
doesn't
ward
make
during
sense though,
quarantine.
because if
Man,
So Candace, listen, I don't agree with her on all the things, but some of the things she is spot
when
on.
she's
She
right,
is, oh man.
okay. I listen. When she right, she
When
right, but when she wrong,
yes,
wrong.
she's wrong. Exactly. And when you
how do
gonna
they know
come
if
for
they
her, you
didn't?
better come correct.
Straight up.
You know, if they didn't get the vaccine, what difference?
They did get it, and they were still put on ventilators. So the vaccine didn't work, and so listen. I'm a journalist. They allowed me into the hospital wards, and that's what they told me. And I was working.
How
for
were you
media.
able to go in the hospital wards when we were on lockdown? They got to talk. I'm just being facetious here.
I know.
It goes both ways. Okay, so this is a quote from you right after you said that you were leaving the cult of science. Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm going to play clips. I know that you want people to watch the full
No,
episode.
I'm
but
fine.
going
I'm
play
happy to put them in context.
clips, and you said, "quote No matter what, if there is a bunch of people who believe something, I now want to know what it is." So in the spirit of all of that, and if we can do it quickly here, right? Because I know that you're very busy and you have things to do. So I want to know, and you can tell me yes or no if you agree or disagree, because some of these things are deemed as conspiracy theories, like flat Earth or round Earth. I know that you said maybe that was taken out of context. So I'm going to say if you agree or disagree. These are not clips; these are just quotes. The 1969 moon landing was staged in Arizona.
I 100%, after reading this book, Chaos, believe that the moon landing was a complete and utter ridiculous hoax on the American people.
Bro, was she about to
I
bring
do
the book
too.
up? Bro,
Uh-huh.
she looked back like she was like to go get the book and be like, "Hey, chaos."
Yep. Page 42, chapter 5. Third paragraph.
I used to not believe. I actually always had an instinct about that one, and then I read a lot into it, and I was just like, okay, this is actually kind of ridiculous. It's like the Easter Bunny for adults, you know?
Okay.
Yep.
All right. The U.S. government was behind 9/11.
No, I don't believe the U.S. government was behind 9/11.
You don't. You think it was just as reported?
Not as reported. Obviously, not as reported. I did a whole episode on that. People should watch it.
Okay.
For tons of things that we weren't told about
It's still up online. Okay, go ahead. People can
Mhm,
watch
yeah.
it. All right.
Mhm.
The mass shootings that have been faked to promote gun control laws.
No, I don't believe that.
You don't believe that? Okay.
Mhm.
Barack Obama was not born in America.
I don't even know where that one comes from. I don't know anything about that conspiracy theory.
No, I'm just asking you. Well,
Yeah.
you don't know where it comes from. I mean, Donald
I
Trump.
literally don't know where it comes from. I mean, I was quite young, like as in like I was in 2008. I hadn't even voted at that time, so I didn't follow. I guess the best way to say is I was in college. I didn't follow the Barack Obama Kenya thing
You
that went
didn't
on.
follow that. I mean, that was beyond 2008. The birtherism thing with Donald
I didn't.
Trump.
I was not at all engaged in politics. I was in college when he won, and
Okay.
Do I seem like a dishonest person? Would I not tell you
No,
if
no,
I
I
followed
think
it and
that's fair
believed
enough.
it?
If you didn't follow it and you don't know, but I'm surprised that you as a journalist and someone who is so opinionated that you haven't done research on that. But if you haven't,
Well, you're inspiring me to. I will.
okay. The CIA killed JFK.
Yes, I believe that.
You do. Why is that?
Yes, because there would be no other reason for them to lock down the files for as long as they did, and then come up with a stupid Russia did it thing that long. The only time you would lock down files like that regarding a sitting president being shot. And by the way, if they knew Russia had done it, we would have gone to full-blown war because they would have killed the sitting president. And also because, and this is a very interesting fact that I learned in this book, Chaos, that people should read, and actually become very informed about this. The individual that shot the individual who shot JFK, his name was Jacob Rubenstein, was subsequently MK Ultra'd. That was a government program in which they had realized that if you give people a cocktail of drugs, you could essentially not brainwash them, but you could make them crazy instantly. They could give you schizophrenia instantly. So the doctor that was behind that, Dr. Leslie, this is all a fact, by the way. This is not like these are declassified. The guy, the reporter who worked on this for 22 years of his life working on this was Tom O'Neill. So I know you're laughing, but I'm encouraging you to actually read it. It could just be something you didn't know. The book is called Chaos, the CIA, the 1960s, and MK Ultra. And they MK Ultra'd, admittedly, in the documents, they MK Ultra'd Jacob Rubenstein, which is why the judge, on the day that he appeared, the second day that he appeared, said, what happened to him? I was speaking to him totally fine yesterday, and now you're telling me that he's legally insane.
But what I want you to know is, and I think the book is called Chaos, as you said, people read it. Some of the things that you're mentioning and the names that you're mentioning have been written about before. And just as maybe you weren't aware of the birth certificate, the other things, perhaps you weren't aware of the investigations that have taken place before that.
You just can't shoot a president in broad daylight, and then we pretend we don't know who did it. That's just that. You have to be a conspiracy theorist to believe our government had nothing to do with the shooting of JFK. That's my viewpoint. It's too ridiculous.
Okay, I'll disagree with that because I just don't. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Do you take offense when people call you a conspiracy theorist?
Do you think what?
Do you take offense when people call you a conspiracy?
No, because I've studied the history of psychology in this country, and I know that that term was actually entered into the American mindset after the shooting of JFK. They started using the term conspiracy theory to make people get off of their tail or not ask questions by making it seem like it's crazy to want to know who shot a sitting president in broad daylight. So on my show, I cover a lot about the history of psychology and propaganda. Edward Bernays, who's considered the father of propaganda.
This was done before President Trump's getting shot.
It sure was. Talk about it. Talk about it.
So I want to actually go into what she said after he got shot.
Yes.
It's crazy that you have Don Lemon here, ex CNN. Like, even though he ain't CNN no more, he must be still getting paid from like the Republicans to grill her like this. It's like, do you have your own mind, or is it like
it's not even he doesn't I think you meant the Democratic Party, the Democrats, because Candace Owens, if I'm not mistaken, I think she is a Republican, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, and he's a Democrat. Okay, so that's how much I don't know this bullshit. So.
Right. But it's interesting, that point, because like she said, if we would have known who shot and killed a sitting president in broad daylight, and if we would have known which country had done it, we would have went in that country and took, everybody
out.
You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't have went down like that, where no one paid for it.
We're gonna get a little bit into this Trump situation, because I'm like, I was in the military. I know the actual, like, what you have to go through to become a sniper for the military. Like, please, they wouldn't have missed. There would be no miss. So I don't know who this guy was. Maybe it was a regular person, but yeah, you don't miss.
Yeah, he almost
and that led to being on camera, and that
what the experts tell them without thinking. We saw this during COVID, so I'm very comfortable saying this. People, if I had been saying this years ago, people would have been like, she's crazy, but this is what we mean when we say science. And by the way, these ideas, if you want someone even more brilliant than me who wrote about this, C.S. Lewis would be a great starting place. He termed this scientism, where the people that are in control of science create a faith. They create a faith by saying, well, the experts say 6 feet social distancing works. And so everyone starts walking around with 6 feet social distance between them until Fauci comes around, like he did recently, and say, we kind of made that up. We were just guessing. The experts say the COVID vaccine, if you get it, you will not transmit or be able to get COVID.
Exactly,
and then they go,
go
actually, that wasn't true. So people, and without knowing that, subjected their bodies. And
can I tell you guys my hypothesis about COVID? It was transmitted through the water.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. Okay. So when your sewage system, right? When you go to the bathroom, it goes into the water, right? They take that water back in, they filtrate it, and they put it back into the system. So if you have a bunch of people with so-called COVID and they're drinking water from the faucet, then that's how they can like really like have it be a massive spread event. That's what I believe.
You think that you think the water was contaminated?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hey, look, don't put it past anything, to try to do some sort of population control. You know what I'm saying? And it may be for some deeper, bigger purpose, other than population control.
Everybody thinking about like being spread apart, but they're not like focused on the water they're drinking.
Mhm. Because I think because it's airborne. I mean, if you're gonna introduce a pathogen into, a virus into a population, usually you do it in a way that that it can be spread through the air, because that's the fastest way to infect
Honey,
a
the
large
fastest way
population
is
of people.
no, the fastest way through water, because you know what?
Mhm.
Everybody gotta drink water. You have to drink water. I mean, if you
But
don't drink water,
remember, uh, DJ, not everybody is drinking from the same source.
but all
Because
sources are linked to the sewage system.
yeah, but we're not drinking soup. But we're not drinking. We're drinking filtrated water. Our water is treated, right? Now, unless, like, say for instance, where I live, we get our water comes from upstate, right? Our water comes from upstate. It gets treated and pumped from
But
all the way upstate New
is
York.
it treated with something that could kill COVID?
Well, I don't know if it could kill COVID, but for me, I would think
So listen. Your house, when you flush your toilet, it goes
mhm,
into the water, right? It goes into the water. The water
uh-huh.
then is brought back into the system, flushed out, cleansed, and then put back into the system.
Hmm. I'm not
Think about
I'm not too sure how how they treat the sewage here in the in the city. I would pray to God that it's not treated that way.
I would no,
But
that's what happened. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. Do some research.
Said, okay, I'm going to get this
because I'm
vaccine. Then they say the science has changed. Well, if the science changes and you've already impacted your body, as many women, I did not get the COVID vaccine, and I'm not meaning to judge people who did, but a lot of my female friends were having menstruation issues, as we talked about on the show. A lot of my female friends had miscarriages, as we talked about on the show, simply because they trusted the experts, not because they actually knew.
You don't know
wait,
that
you
for
went
sure.
backwards.
You don't know for sure that they had a miscarriage because of the vaccine. That's
They had,
there's
first and
Jen,
foremost, they've already admitted that the vaccine, we're now past COVID era scientism. So they admitted
DJ,
that the 6 feet social distancing was fraudulent science. They admitted that the masking was
you realize
fraudulent
you're looking at
science.
something in hindsight. Hindsight is 2020, and your Monday morning.
Well, that's the
part
point.
of that, right?
And until you
So
get hindsight, it's just a faith. And that is what I am talking about on my show. It is just a faith. People place faith. It was not a science, it was a faith. Okay.
you said a
Real
phase or a
science.
faith?
So that's a faith. You just believe it. You can't see it. You trust the person. You trust this person who is a science, who's a doctor, who you've enacted as
DJ,
the
you
one in your
gotta
life.
fast forward a little
Common
bit.
sense to
Who did
me
you
when I was a
trust?
kid. Well, common sense to me when I was a kid, like when people were pushing birth control pills on me when I turned like 15, every time I went to the doctor, women who are watching this will relate. They're suddenly like, birth control, you got a pimple, birth control. So I didn't need to trust the science or the experts I just said to myself, yeah, probably not a good idea to microdose yourself with hormones every single
What
day.
does that have to do with a worldwide pandemic and epidemic where people were?
I'm answering the clip that you just showed. I'm putting this into context.
I know, but you're going.
Yeah.
I want
But because that's also what I talked about on my show. This is the beauty of actually watching a full episode and not using a clip. And so I said, now for me, it's going to require a little bit more than a faith, right? Because I'm realizing scientism just gets people to do things based on emotion without actually, and just going, trust the experts. I'm not trusting.
Sorry about that. I had to run to the door. What you were saying, Cass?
Yeah. Nah, I was saying that you have to fast forward a little bit. Yeah.
Evolves, and we learn more about things. Just as the science around cancer and HIV, that's all evolving and it's improving. So over time, science evolves. It improves. So
We
I don't
got to the
understand
part
the
where he was
obsession
asking her
with people who say,
questions
"Oh, I didn't do
if
this," and they
she
feel really
believes in
good about
conspiracy theories.
possibly even harming their fellow man by not wanting to do things that's supposed to help the greater good. To me, that is the most un-American and most unpatriotic thing that a person can do.
Yeah, well, actually, the most un-American thing would be Marxism, and that's a Marxist philosophy that you do things for the greater good.
All right. The U.S.
a lot into it, and I was just like, okay, this is actually kind of ridiculous. It's
All right, so conspiracy theory, lightning round.
Yeah, the lightning round, I
I want to
think.
know, and you can tell me yes or no if you agree or disagree.
Yeah.
Some of these things are deemed as conspiracy theories, like flat Earth or round Earth. I know that you said maybe that was taken out of context. So I'm going to say if you agree or disagree. These are not clips. These are just quotes. The 1969 moon landing was staged in Arizona.
I 100%, after reading this book, Chaos, believe that the moon landing was a complete and utter ridiculous hoax on the American people. I used to not believe. I actually always had an instinct about that one, and then I read a lot into it, and I was just like, okay, this is actually kind of ridiculous. It's like the Easter Bunny for adults, you know?
Okay. All right. The U.S. government was behind 9/11.
No, I don't believe the U.S. government was behind 9/11.
You don't. You think it was just as reported?
Not as reported. Obviously, not as reported. I did a whole episode on that. People should watch it.
Okay.
With tons of things that we weren't told about
It's still up online. I would. Okay, go ahead. People can watch
Yeah.
it. All right. The mass shootings that have been faked to promote gun control laws.
No, I don't believe that.
You don't believe that. Okay. Barack Obama was not born in America.
I don't even know where that one comes from. I don't know anything about that conspiracy theory.
No, I'm just asking you. Well,
Yeah.
you don't know where it comes from. I mean, Donald
I
Trump.
literally don't know where it comes from. I mean, I was quite young, like as in like I was in 2008. I hadn't even voted at that time, so I didn't follow. I guess the best way to say is I was in college. I didn't follow the Barack Obama Kenya thing
You
that went
didn't
on.
follow that. I mean, that was beyond 2008. The birtherism thing with Donald Trump.
I was not at all engaged in politics. I was in college when he won, and
Okay.
Do I seem like a dishonest person? Would I not tell you if I followed it and believed it?
If you didn't follow it and you don't know that, but I'm surprised that you as a journalist and someone who is so opinionated that you haven't done research on that. But if you haven't,
well, you're inspiring me to. I will.
Okay. The CIA killed JFK.
Yes, I believe that.
You do. Why is that?
Yes, because there would be no other reason for them to lock down the files for as long as they did, and then come up with a stupid Russia did it thing that long. The only time you would lock down files like that regarding a sitting president being shot. And by the way, if they knew Russia had done it, we would have gone to full-blown war because they would have killed the sitting president. And also because, and this is a very interesting fact that I learned in this book, Chaos, that people should read and actually become very informed about this. The individual that shot the individual who shot JFK, his name was Jacob Rubenstein, was subsequently MK Ultra. That was a government program in which they had realized that if you gave people a cocktail of drugs, you could essentially not brainwash them, but you could you could make them crazy instantly. They could give you schizophrenia instantly. So the doctor that was behind that, Dr. Leslie, this is all a fact, by the way. This is not like these are declassified. The reporter who worked on this for 22 years of his life working on this was Tom O'Neill. So I know you're laughing, but I'm encouraging you to actually read it. It could just be something you didn't know. The book is called Chaos, the CIA, the 1960s, and MK Ultra. And they MK Ultra'd, admittedly, in the documents, they MK Ultra'd Jacob Rubenstein, which is why the judge, on the day that he appeared, the second day that he appeared, said, what happened to him? I was speaking to him totally fine yesterday, and now you're telling me that he's legally insane.
But what I want you to know is, and I think the book is called Chaos, as you said, people read it. Some of the things that you're mentioning and the names that you're mentioning have been written about before. And just as maybe you weren't aware of the birth certificate, the other things, perhaps you weren't aware of the investigations that have taken place before that.
You just can't shoot a president in broad daylight and then we pretend we don't know who did it. That's just that. You have to be a conspiracy theorist to believe our government had nothing to do with the shooting of JFK. That's my viewpoint. It's too ridiculous.
Okay, I'll disagree with that because I just don't. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Do you take offense when people call you a conspiracy theorist?
Do you think what?
Do you take offense when people call you a conspiracy?
No, because I've studied the history of psychology in this country, and I know that term was actually entered into the American mindset after the shooting of JFK. They started using the term conspiracy theory to make people get off of their tail or not ask questions by making it seem like it's crazy to want to know who shot a sitting president in broad daylight. So on my show, I cover a lot about the history of psychology and propaganda. Edward Bernays, who's considered the father of propaganda in the United States, and you will learn that terms like that are meant to make you think that there's nothing here. You're a conspiracy theorist. No, it's common sense that the government would not hide who shot a sitting president unless it was done by the government. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, and quite often the answer is the most obvious. Sometimes things are just conspiracy theories. Okay, so listen, there was, to be honest with you,
is he being dismissive or am I like crazy? You know what I'm saying? You ask a question, she gives the answer, you say, well, yeah, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? That's what he's doing. Every question she answers, he's saying, yeah, but blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Like dismissive. Let's go into it.
We had this debate and discussion about whether or not to do this interview today because of something that you said on your show. And members of my staff took offense to it. I actually took offense to it, and I did not watch the whole show. I saw the clip, but on your show, and I'm going to play the soundbite, and I want you to explain it, because you said specifically you were commenting on Dr. Joseph Mengele, right, and the experience, his experiments on prisoners in Auschwitz, and you said this, and I want to get you to explain to the audience of what you meant. Here it is.
On innocent people, Candace. Come on, that's the difference. They experimented on twins. I mean, some of the stories, by the way, sound completely absurd. I mean, like the idea that they just like cut a human up and then sewed them back together. Why would you do that? Literally, even if you're the most evil person in the world, that's a tremendous waste of time and supplies. Just slice a person in half and sew them together. That just sounds like bizarre propaganda.
Okay, so but what you're saying is based on what you feel, again, as you say, based on feelings rather than fact. There are so many facts to support what happened with Dr. Mengele. I wonder if you understand just how harmful it is for you to say things like that when there is documented evidence of Mengele's experiments. It is documented. It is not propaganda.
So would you like me to put that clip in context? Because
Sure,
I think
yes.
it's really relevant. Sure. So first and foremost, I said they, which would probably indicate to most people that I was speaking about more than one person. And the show was about the things that we learn in school, the most horrific things that we learn in school, and how I will show you that what we did in America is actually worse. So the truth is that they, the Nazi scientists, were brought over to the United States after the war, an operation known as Operation Paperclip. And the experiments that took place thereafter, they, the United States government, conducted way worse experiments, so chief among them being Sidney Gottlieb, who I spoke about on the show extensively in terms of the experiments that were enacted on our troops. Again, that terrifying book will really wake you up to what these Nazi scientists who were told are so horrific that we brought them over. The big piece, by the way, the reason why they cut out those 4 seconds and didn't talk about the entire monologue was because most Americans don't know about the other Holocaust that took place in the world, right? Where we can only talk about the feelings, you're talking about your, how people felt in your staff about a 4-second clip. Well, why don't you go talk to some of the Christians and maybe ask them how they feel about how it feels that when we talk about the Christian Holocaust, which is what this episode was about, the 12 million Germans that were ethnically cleansed, the Bolsheviks who mass murdered Christians, Henry Kagoda, who was the greatest mass murderer of the 20th century, who put us into concentration camps. Suddenly the media gets mad and they take out 4 seconds and they, again, somehow make it about Jewish people in the Holocaust. That's not the only Holocaust that happened. And I will use my platform to speak about the atrocities that Christians face, and I will do so unapologetically. So if you're looking for an apology for me saying that the idea that the Nazi scientists did this and it was so horrific that we then decided to bring them over to the United States, you're not going to get one. I'm at a place where I'm really tired of like everybody's feelings mattering more than the history of what was done to Christians.
Okay.
I think it's time. I think it's okay for us to talk about the Christian Holocaust. 2024. Let's talk about the Bolshevik Revolution and what they did to Christians.
Okay, a couple of different things there. I'm not asking you to apologize. I just wanted to know what you meant by that. And what I heard in that clip had nothing to do with what you said, because you said you thought it was ridiculous, the method by which Dr. Mengele was doing his work.
I didn't say Dr. Mengele. I said they. So right there, you're live editing according to what Zionist media, who were upset that I talked about how Israel protected the mass murderers.
You think let's just specifically, you think what happened with Dr. Mengele is true? You believe that?
There were definitively experiments on twins. I specifically said we were told, and I don't even think they still say this, by the way, and you can fact check this, that they cut. And I didn't even say a twin. I said they cut a human being, right? And then they sewed them back together. I don't know how this became about Dr. Mengele's twins, as the media just goes off and says whatever they want. I don't think they still say that. There were a lot of things that we learned, and I would talk about in this episode, that have since been updated, and have people say, okay, it wasn't that part that was true. The correct thing is this is what's happened. I'm not sure. I mean, you can definitely fact check that, and you should. I don't think anymore they teach that somebody was cut in half and then sewn back up like an individual. I don't think so.
I think that they still do teach the truth about what happened.
No,
Here's the thing, though. Let me ask you this. Why do you feel the need then to defend Nazis or
Nazis aren't alive anymore, so we got to stop you calling everybody a Nazi.
Why do you feel the need then to sort of go down this rabbit hole and to defend something that was horrific?
That part is not true. Nazis are still alive. There's still people that still follow the Nazi edict. Now, the Nazis in context to Hitler, no, but there are neo-Nazis. So,
and to say that we had other. Why are you comparing what happened in the Holocaust to other atrocities? Because it's awful. Why can't you just stick with the Holocaust? And
why can't I cover Christian history? What is this? What do you mean stick with the Holocaust? What do you mean by that?
Actions? I don't understand that.
Nobody defended any actions. That episode was about the fact that after the war, and this was a BBC documentary, not a Candace Owens documentary. It's a BBC documentary, and I played parts of the documentary. It talks about how the Allies committed atrocities against the German
speaking civilians. They were not people who voted for Hitler. They were not Nazis. They were children who were lined up and shot. Their bodies were thrown on the ground while they were alive, and they were rolled over on cars. The footage is in the BBC documentary. It's called The Savage Peace. When people watch this documentary, they are so astonished and shocked that we didn't learn about it in school that they begin asking real serious questions. And one of those questions that you ask is, why are we not told about the mass killing of Christians all around the world? What you just said, like, why can't we just let it be about the Holocaust? What is that? Well, that's like the most selfish thing in the entire world. Let me finish. The most selfish thing in the entire world is for me to spend an hour talking about the atrocities that innocent Christians who had nothing to do with Adolf Hitler faced, and then to have Zionist media talking heads somehow make it about the Holocaust. It's not about the Holocaust, okay? Christians suffered too. In fact, we are the most persecuted religion in the world, and I am so sick of it. I am so sick of there can only be one victim narrative.
Come on.
And if you start talking about
and we are not the most persecuted in the world. Come on.
That is a fact. What are you saying? We're not the most persecuted in the world. Do you know what's happening in Armenia? Do you know what's happening in Nigeria? Do you know what just happened in Canada? The fake story that was propagated by all of the mainstream networks about the nuns, and they found the mass burial, which allowed 85 Catholic churches to be burned to the ground in the last 3 years in Canada. We are still being persecuted right now. So I take great offense to you coming in here about the sensitivities of the people that are working on your show when I'm sitting here telling you that I'm a Christian and I'm offended by what you're saying, and you laugh. You mock Christian persecution. Do you think people to laugh when someone tells you about Christian persecution? Because let me tell you something. If I had done
Let's talk about Christian persecution. Who believes that the Christians are being persecuted? I'm going to put the link in the chat. Is there a mass Christian persecution going on?
I think it's laughable. I don't think it's funny.
I would be chased out of polite society. Then don't laugh. Don't laugh at Christian persecution.
Well,
don't do it.
laughable is mean that the name is in the term. It's laughable.
Do not laugh. You literally just laugh when I talk about Christian persecution. Don't do that ever again. Not in my presence.
What you're saying is, okay, Candace, thank you. So what you're saying is, oh, you know what? The Holocaust was bad, but look over here. These people were worse than the Holocaust, so we should.
That's not. First off,
that's what it sounds like. I'm telling you, that's what it sounds like.
You just said you didn't watch the episode.
No, but I'm saying that's what it sounds like. That's what you're saying. I don't have to watch the episode. I was listening to the words that you just said. You just spent 3 or 4 minutes talking about the other atrocities and how bad they were.
Yes, the other atrocities that have happened in human history outside of the Holocaust are things that we are relevant and allowed to talk about, especially when the numbers of Christians that were persecuted following the Russian Revolution and the manner in which they were killed, people that were beheaded, priests that were shot. Yes, it is. I can talk about Christian history, and I don't need to feel guilty about that, and I won't.
That's fine. All right, good. You don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to.
And please, genuinely, please never, please, when I come on your show, have enough respect not to laugh when I talk about Christian persecution, because you would never do that if I was Jewish and I was talking about the Holocaust.
You can't tell.
You would never do that.
You should have enough respect to know not to tell people how to react. You can't tell.
What about just the black persecution across Africa? What about like the Holocaust, the genocide within Africa? She's just talking about Christian persecution, but there was like a whole genocide that happened in Africa where like the Congo, South Africa, apartheid, like we're just so focused on Christianity that like, do we only like, the only thing I'm kind of like frustrated with Candace Owens in this, because she is right what she's saying, is that she's focused on one persecution, but there's other persecutions that happened too. There were, there was like, what I'm saying, the Holocaust that happened outside of what she's saying. There were genocides, that happened outside of Christian persecution. So, but maybe that's her platform to speak about. I don't know.
Someone not to laugh.
Okay. Well, then I double dare you when a Jewish person is talking about persecution of Jews to laugh. You won't do it.
I won't do it because I actually believe that there were persecution of Jews,
and you don't believe that Christians were persecuted.
My thought. I believe that there is persecution of Christians. I don't think it's the most persecuted religion in the world. Okay, so listen. Consider. Okay, laughable. Good. You agree with me. Thank you. So listen, when you know what happened with you was a Daily Wire, right? Is that the network you were on? What happened with you at the Daily Wire because of your stance on what's happening in Israel and Gaza, and what you just explained. My question to you is, because people think that you are you anti-Semitic?
No, I'm not anti-Semitic.
Go on.
Go on with what? You asked me a question. I answered it.
You
said
I
don't even launch into defense of myself because I'm just not anti-Semitic. There's nothing that here that I need to add. I guess today anti-Semitism, the definition keeps expanding, and now I guess it means if you don't fall over yourself every time Bibi Netanyahu speaks, they're just going to call you an anti-Semite. Nope, I'm a Christian. Kids being bombed is upsetting to me, And I have a right to say that without being called an anti-Semite. And if you want to call me an anti-Semite for it, I simply don't care.
I'm not calling you an anti-Semite. I'm because people call you that. And I think, look, if you, there's a, the whole talk about Zionism and anti-Semitism and whatever. I think it's a conversation that you just can't win. But I would like for you to be able to explain yourself, because
Judaism is not Zionism, and it doesn't matter how many people insist that it is. It's just not. It's a political party, and it puts the interests of Israel above everything else. I grew up with Jewish people. Jewish people are my best friends. This is the nation of Israel is not Judaism. It's a nonsense to suggest that we can critique, as we did earlier, talking about Joe Biden, that we can critique our own president, and nobody cares, because we should. You should be able to hold leaders and their decisions and their feet to the fire. And then to say that if you do the exact same thing over what Bibi Netanyahu's actions are, then you're somehow anti-Semitic.
Okay, I understand that, and I don't disagree. I think you can criticize and analyze the actions of the Israeli government, the IDF, and also Bibi Netanyahu. But to say that, listen, I'm not anti-Semitic because I have Jewish friends, it's kind of like saying I have black friends. I don't think that actually helps your argument, Ken.
No, I didn't say that. What I was saying is that I have Jewish friends. Judaism is not Zionism, as in I have friends who are Jewish who don't support what's happening overseas.
Okay.
Judaism is not Zionism. They don't stop being Jewish because they disagree with what Bibi Netanyahu is doing.
Okay, you say that you're not anti-Semitic, but I can't tell you what's in your heart. I believe you. You said that you're not anti-Semitic. You don't believe that you're anti-Semitic. But there are anti-Semites and neo-Nazis. They do love you. And I want to play this clip. This is from Nick Fuentes, his show just this week. Watch this.
One other big development, Candace Owens did a show today. She did her show, and she talked about my beef with Jordan Peterson. And so I really appreciate her covering it. We love Candace Owens. She's beautiful. She's very intelligent, and she is really hardcore. She's been going off.
Does that bother you that and that's the whole reason I said, it looks this way, and maybe that's not your intention, as you said, but it looks this way. Like you're saying, hey, don't look at what happened with the Holocaust. Look over here. But if you have people like Nick Fuentes who said, hey, we love you, whatever, maybe your message isn't hitting correctly. What do you think of Fuentes saying
well,
that?
Now you're just conflating.
His neo-Nazi audience love you.
Sure. So now you're just conflating things because you're still kind of trying to sell this narrative that this somehow is about Jewish people. What Nick Fuentes is talking about, which is the first time I'm seeing it because I don't watch Nick Fuentes nearly as much as apparently everybody in the mainstream media does. What he's talking about is what I covered on my show as a news item, which was Jordan Peterson and him having a back and forth from Michaela. Dr. Jordan Peterson is, by the way, very lovely, very kind person, but it was a very newsworthy item when Michaela, and Peterson being his daughter, called for censorship, called for straight up censorship. She's like, we need to have censorship, anybody that uses the term filth. And it was a back forth between her and Nick Fuentes because he responded and he said, your father literally called me a rat last week. This was a trending item on Twitter. I covered it on my show. To the extent that Nick Fuentes enjoyed the fact that I covered it in a meaningful capacity, because it is problematic when anybody calls for censorship. I don't care if the person's on the left or the person's on the right. You will make an enemy of me because I support the First Amendment and I believe that we have to have free speech. What can I say about that? It's an absurd thing for people to keep pretending. I'm a person that has, across social media, 10 million followers. And when you start getting desperate because you can't actually pull something that I've said, you start going, well, what do you think about this account? And this person has also said this, and this person likes you. If you did that, and I was then accountable for the words that every single person that followed me said, there's no way you can survive that. I could do that right now to you. I could have had my producers look at this person who follows Don Lemon. They've said something against Black people. So Don Lemon, it's like, that's a ridiculous thing to say. But to the extent that you ask me, and this has happened before, as Piers Morgan did, he said, this is some things that Nick Fuentes has said. Do you agree with it? And I said, no, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Hold me accountable for what I actually
said.
Well,
that was the reason I asked you about it. Because
but
so
I don't you showed me.
This is not a gotcha. I'm asking you.
But that is such a gotcha. That is such a gotcha to say it's nothing that you said, but let me show you this person who likes you. Because what you're trying to do is play this strategy with the public so they watch it and they go, well, she must be saying all sorts of things if this person likes her. Most people do like if you're going to say something on their show and you're showing the back forth that, he's obviously going to say, look, Candace covered this issue in a way that's consistent with the beliefs of the First Amendment. So he may say something that I fundamentally disagree with. But if Nick Fuentes says 1 + 1 = 2, and I agree with that, it doesn't mean that I subscribe to everything Nick Fuentes says. If Nick Fuentes says only women can give birth, and I agree with that, you then go, oh, look, Nick Fuentes is celebrating you because you said only women can give birth. I mean, you're smarter than this, Don. You're in the public sphere. We cannot be beholden or responsible for every comment that is made by people who support us and follow us.
Do you think he's being disingenuous in here? Like, why would he bring her on the platform to try to, I don't know. It's weird.
Well, that's why I put it up there, because if someone like Nick Fuentes was saying good things about some of the things that I believed or what I said, that would actually be problematic for me. And I would want to respond to that. I would welcome the opportunity for Candace Owens to play that clip on her show so that I could knock it down and say, I don't believe in anything Nick Fuentes or any of his followers or viewers or whatever. I don't understand why they are happy with what I said, but this is what I believe, and this is the context.
I do believe that it is problematic that Michaela Peterson called for censorship.
So I can't knock that down. I can't say like, what do you want me to say on the show? Well, because Nick Fuentes agrees with that perspective, I'm now anti-speech. That doesn't, I believe in free speech. I believe that what Michaela Peterson said was wrong. I genuinely believe that.
Okay.
Like you can't just call for censorship.
I've got to ask you about this because this is from your old show. And as I said, there are some things, I mean, you've actually defended me before. And I was like, wow, Candace Owens, whatever. And there are things that I do where I say, you know what, Candace got it right. I like it. And there are other things I'm like, oh my gosh, why is she saying that? Right. And this is one thing that I've been wanting to ask you about, Candace, because it really bothered me. But I want the explanation in the context, as you say.
Do you have any clips of anything that like you agreed with, or we're just gonna like pretend this is a friendly interview as you can like, okay. Just wondering, is there even one clip of something that you agree with?
I don't know. Maybe I agree with the next clip. But anyway, roll the next clip, please.
Bring shame back. Bring back saying you are disgusting, you are wrong, you are a hoe, you are a pervert. Call things for what they are. And that is another way that they've psychologically tried to transform speech in America by saying like, oh, okay, you have free speech, but if you say that word, like if you say like, oh, that's whack or that's gay, then that would make you a homophobe. You don't be a homophobe, do you? It's no, we shouldn't do that. And if you look at the disappearance of words that actually had real meanings, like growing up, majoring in English, reading old English novels and understanding that a word like is a real word, it means a bundle of sticks.
Okay, so listen, listen, I believe in free speech, right? But I also believe that free speech comes with consequences. So the word you said was right? Is that exactly the word? So what did you mean by that? You think it's okay to say the word, to call people to their face?
No, actually, I said words have meaning. And so when you start allowing the perverts to dictate speech, then words just have to go away. And as I said in that clip, when I was growing up and I was reading English novels, when people say you're walking through the woods to get it meant a bundle of sticks. And then they said you can no longer.
Hey, shout out Jackie. She's in the chat. Okay, y'all, be careful.
Say this word that has a real meaning, right? A bundle of sticks, because some pervert took that and threw it as an epithet towards gay people. I think that's actually, that's a wrong way of thinking, because then what you're doing is you're allowing perverts to dictate society. So I don't like the death of the English language because people are getting offended. So that's like, I could pick any word. I could say, plant. And from now on, every time I see a gay guy, I'm gonna be like, he's a total plant. And then eventually they say, you can't say plant anymore. It's like, no, this is a real word that has meaning. Attack the person who's perverting the word, but you don't suddenly disappear a word and you say you can no longer say it, or you can no longer read these Virginia Woolf novels because the word has been perverted. I don't think that's, I think that's a backwards way of thinking.
Read Virginia Woolf novels, and the only people I know who are trying to ban books, Virginia Woolf and other books that even say the N-word. I mean, it's conservatives. That's who's trying to do it. I don't think that you should be banning books. But I do know, Candace, that language evolves over time. And when people say that word to me, they're not calling me a cigarette. They're not calling me.
Obviously, that's the point. It has a context. So if you want to punish that person because they're saying that offensively, that if you feel that this person, but it's not fair to then say to everybody else who's not using that word, this word has now been banned. I just think that's ridiculous. That's my point.
You think people?
I don't think that you can suddenly say go backwards and delete words that had real meaning because someone has perverted it, because it never stops. It just becomes constantly having to update the language for people's feelings. And I don't think that we should be doing that.
So you would never call me in my face, right?
Well, why would I just randomly call you?
I'm just meaning.
Have you ever seen the Louis
C.K.
skit on? Have you ever seen the Louis C.K. skit on?
No, I like Louis C.K., but I don't think I've ever seen a skit on.
You should watch it.
Yeah. No, but you would never call like a gay person that to their face.
That seems like an absurd. Like, what? No, of course, I'm not just going around. I'm a 35-year-old mother. I don't go around being like, "Hey, you're." It's just like I'm not 18 years old. Like I'm not going around calling people names. Period. I wouldn't go up to a fat person and call them names. I wouldn't call it. Just like it's an absurd thing to be going around pointing and calling people names because I don't like them. I would no. So the answer is no. I would not.
Do you use the N-word?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. Here's something interesting that we may have some common ground on. Okay. But what do you think about same-sex marriage?
It's a sin.
You think it's a sin? So you think I'm sinful?
What's that?
You think I'm sinful because I'm married to a man?
Yeah.
You do?
Yes, you're sinning. You are in a sinful relationship. I actually don't believe marriage can be between two men. So I don't.
But you understand, though, Candace, and maybe we're not going to agree on this now. I thought we would. Do you understand, though, that the same Bible verses and the same scriptures that are used to call same-sex marriage sinful are used to call interracial marriage sinful as well? And so there are people who would say that you are in a sinful marriage.
Can you tell me which verse it is that would make people say?
The thing is that it's actually not there, and that people twist the Bible verses. That's my whole point. Thank you for proving that, because it doesn't say that. And it's actually, you're going to say Leviticus or whatever. It's not actually what Leviticus says. But go on. I don't want to get into specifics about the Bible, but that's not what the Bible says. It's just people using and interpreting scripture in a way that they want to interpret it. So look, you can believe whatever you want to believe. I don't believe that I'm in a sinful marriage, but there are people who believe, Candace Owens, that you are in a sinful marriage because you are in an interracial marriage. And I say that as someone who is in an interracial marriage, so I am doubly sinful.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody make a biblical argument against people being married that are black and white. So that's why I said, can you just tell me what
Yeah.
verse? What sodomy is obviously a sin, but I've never heard a biblical argument. I'm
Heterosexual
happy to
people
learn. I
is- you know
honestly,
the
I'm happy to
meaning-
learn.
Sodomy is not just for gay sex, right? You know that, right? Sodomy is.
Yeah, it's a sin always, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, it's a sin between. It can be a sin between heterosexuals as well.
Yes, that's
but,
correct.
So okay, so but you've never heard that interracial marriage was sinful?
I've never heard somebody make a biblical argument for interracial. I've never, and that's why I'm saying if you could present that to me, and if maybe you're familiar
Yeah,
with
but
what
actually,
verse
it's
that
not
was.
a biblical argument. It's also a religious argument as well, more so than anything, that you're in a sinful marriage and that black and white people should not be married.
I mean, I'm obviously very aware that people could think that ideologically, but I've never heard that biblical argument made ever in my life, and I'm happy to be proven wrong here. But I think you maybe made that up on the spot there.
So by saying that, no, I didn't actually. But by saying that you believe that I'm in a sinful marriage, does that mean though that I should be discriminated against?
No, I've never called for
So you
discrimination.
believe in the
People sin.
separation of church and state? Then
Heterosexual couples can sin as well. I mean, but I hope that you deal with that. I want you to be Christian and to understand why it is that sodomy is a sin and what else it yields in society. I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman.
Yeah.
But
that doesn't mean that you believe that I should be discriminated against. I should
believe
be
any
able to have,
person-
under the Constitution, you believe that I have the same rights as you and other heterosexuals, and that my marriage is just as valid under the Constitution as anybody else's, including.
Well, I believe that the problem became that gets into a deeper theological discussion, but like the government should have never taken marriage away from the church. It should have been something that was maintained as a church practice. And so a lot of things happened there when the government took over and began marrying people, because then the arguments became, well, you get a tax break if you're married, and that is a way longer discussion that we can have on a different day. But to answer your question, I would never want any person based on their sins to ever be discriminated against, ever. I mean, I don't believe in discrimination. I don't believe that people should be treated differently. I think people should get help, and like we were just talking about with trans indoctrination, I believe that's a mental illness and people should seek help, but I don't believe that they should be discriminated against. I would never be okay with that. I mean, I have people that are, gay and lesbians in my life. I have cousins who are lesbians, so it's not, I don't have hatred
Do you have gay
in my
friends?
heart.
You have Jewish
I
friends?
have-
You have gay friends?
I'm trying to be funny.
Do you have gay friends? I want to know.
Yes, I actually don't have, I really kind of feel like I only hang out with my family right now, so I'm a little, I've got 3 kids under 3, so I don't really have friends right now, but yeah, sure.
No, seriously, you don't have gay friends?
Well, I have gay people in my family, so that's the extent of my friendships with gay people.
Are you homophobic? No, seriously. I
You're such an
I
absurd
thought you would say,
human
of course
being.
I have gay
You're
friends.
just
What
such
do you
an
think, bit my
absurd
hair
human
in
being.
my- I don't know, I'm just
First
saying.
off, the person that you're just an absurd human being. Are you homophobic? I'm just like, what does homophobia actually mean? Can you give me a definition of homophobia? If I was homophobic, would I be doing like this show? Do you think I'm like scared? Like I'm like, oh my God, look, there's a gay man. I'm so scared. It's
No,
not
not at all. I
have a
just
phobia
asked you a very
is like to
simple
have
question.
a phobia, a fear of, like, you think I fear like 2 gay men that are walking down the street holding hands, like, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so scared. I don't fear anything but God. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think God is to be feared, but anyways, I'm just surprised that you don't have any gay friends, because that, I just am. So listen, I actually enjoyed this conversation. I think people who disagree with each other should be able to talk and hash things out. So I hope
Did
that
you enjoy it?
100% I enjoyed it. See, I think people think that conversations should be easy, that people should agree with everything. I have a different perspective on life. I have a different worldview than you. Many things you say I don't respect, but I respect you as a human being. And I think that the only way that we are going to make this grand experiment work is if at some point we try to at least have consensus on something. And sometimes the least of that consensus is being able to at least talk about it and go away saying, you know what, we agree to disagree.
I think that's fine. I believe in more speech, not less. So you will not make an enemy of me if you're talking about the right to conversation. I very much believe in it.
Candace Owens, thank you for appearing. I really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you so much. It was great. Talk soon.
Bye. Thanks for watching The Don Lemon Show. Make sure you click on the image in the top right to subscribe to my channel and the thumbnail in the bottom right to watch more content from my show. And I'll see you next time.
I'm sorry, I was talking. So Don really tried it. He really did. And I don't like it when people, so there's like this thing about the Jews, right? Anti-Semitic, homophobic, where you have this group of people that like try to put you underneath a title and then go from there to control how you speak. Oh, that's homophobic rhetoric. Oh, that's anti-Semitic rhetoric. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that people can try to silence you based on what they feel is your rhetoric. I don't like that. You know. Um. So we talked about conservatism. We talked about a lot of stuff. So let's get into today. Amber Rose she spoke at the Republican National Convention. Let's get into it. No, she did not. She did not allow him to speak that bullshit. So let's get into what she had to say about let's go into Amber Rose's address to the Republican National Convention. Let's go into this.
Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love. And that's when it hit me. These are my people.
People pointed out, oh, she's got a tattoo on her forehead. But actually, her speech was a highlight of the evening. So I'm going to let you guys take a listen to just a small piece of it.
The first person I knew who supported Donald Trump was my father. I was shocked. My entire family is racially diverse. And I believe the left-wing propaganda that Donald Trump was a racist. My father said, no, he's not, Amber. What are you talking about? And when I insisted, he said, prove it. So to prove my father wrong, I did my research and looked into all things Donald Trump. I watched all the rallies, and I started meeting so many of you, his red hat wearing supporters. I realized Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love. And that's when it hit me. These are my people. This is where I belong.
So she looked classy. She delivered points. But if we go back to trying to assess her being on stage, according to the same metric that I was using for Harmony Dillon, who is this speaking to and what does this signify? Well, actually, it spoke to a lot of people. You know, I know that it's difficult for people to recognize that this is the culture that we live in, but it is, right? So there are very many women who are living a life or have been living a life like Amber Rose on OnlyFans, trying to get attention, trying to sell their bodies. Quite literally, that's what she was doing in Hollywood, trying to sell your body to get a magazine cover and to book a magazine cover. So people are watching her and seeing her try to transition into something else. And it is going to signify, whether you believe it should or not, to other women who are living this sort of a life, that they can be something else. And so what I struggle with the Republican Party, or rather the conservative movement, are these purity tests, okay? Which is to say, and I went through this, so I am saying this very much with a chip on my shoulder, because I had to suffer purity tests when I first jumped into conservative thinking. And I want to say, it is not an overnight process, right? So when I first was red pill black and started my YouTube channel, I just realized that BLM on its face was a lie. That was it. I was going, okay, Trump getting elected is not going to put us back into chains. I don't like all of this racist rhetoric. And I actually do believe that you should work hard and not receive handouts. That's how I've lived my life. So does that make me a conservative? And in saying that and putting out these videos, my videos were going so viral. I was being invited onto Fox News. And of course I went, because wow, that's amazing. I can say something that I believe in. And you're telling me there's an audience of people that want to hear this. Amazing. And then instantly the purity test came.
And it was, well, actually, who is Red Pill Black? What does she actually believe about this particular issue? How would she solve what's going on in Afghanistan at the moment? And what are her perspectives on abortion? And suddenly you're being inundated with questions that you've never actually thought through. You said this thing that you actually believe, and you're not there yet. You haven't actually locked all of these things into place. Can we make it easy for people to take that first step? She's not getting up there and saying she's a Christian. By the way, I don't think very many people that hit that stage could get up there and say that they are Christians or embodying Christianity, because the Republican National Convention is not something that was established for only Christians, right? There's a difference between being a Christian and being a conservative and being a Republican. Sometimes you can be all three, but not all the times, right? And some people are just economic conservatives. Maybe she's an economic conservative, but the point is that she said something that she believed to be true, that she felt the media was lying to her about Donald Trump, okay? And instantly that media, that leftist media, came to her and they said, you're not allowed to say that. You wanna know why? Because you're our slut, right? You're our slut. We already sold you leftism, and that's all you'll ever be. And she stood up to them. I showed that clip a while ago of Amber Rose, and Amber Rose was being chased by TMZ, and they're going, how could you? You know, you were the founder of the Slut Walk. And she held her ground, and she said something very important that I believe in very much. People are allowed to evolve. So when we then say to those people who are trying to evolve that you went from being a slut to being imperfect and we don't want you, that makes other people who are seeing that fearful that they can't also change their minds, that they can't also become something different. Now, to speak to those who feel, okay, but why did the RNC put her on the main stage? I think that's a valid feeling. And I especially know that I felt that way specifically because years ago, they put Kim Klacik at the center of the stage and they had not even done any due diligence. Like, they did not know about her past, working at a strip club. And quite frankly, she was lying about a lot of that stuff publicly. And I took her to task on that. I ended up in a lawsuit with Kim Klacik, and I won that lawsuit after years of having to pay legal fees. I won that lawsuit against her when she tried to sue me for defamation because she wasn't being honest about her past. And I still feel that she completely ran the Republican Party and raised tons of money off of one viral video, and nobody did their due diligence. So I understand that feeling of, are we being duped? Has the RNC done any due diligence? And so I want to validate those concerns, but by also saying that you can feel that, but your quarrel would be with the RNC, not with Amber Rose. So let's not join the chorus of people who are denigrating her on the basis that she has an OnlyFans account that my understanding is that she hasn't posted content to it, and instead try to welcome her. And I've had, just to be open about this, a conversation with her, and I sensed very much, I'm a gut player, that she was very genuine and that she is very much struggling right now because of this horrible limbo of realizing that your friends on the left don't want you anymore because, God forbid, you wear a MAGA hat, and your potential friends on the right are now crawling through your pages and saying, ha, 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 look at this girl. She's a conservative. She's supposed to be on stage. Let's just not do that. Let's just not do that. Let's just press pause for a second and give her the space to learn, because she is not going to be what we would want her to be if she decides to stay within this realm. She's simply sharing her story, and I think that she's very much allowed to do that. So if you disagree with that, let me know in the comments. I'm going to take a quick break here. We actually have a new advertiser on the show, which I'm really excited about. And as we're talking about with Amber, we all know that life can be extremely unpredictable, but what everybody needs is a good life insurance policy, a plan that can give your family a financial safety net.
So what y'all think about Amber Rose at the Republican National Convention, like giving a speech? Should it be taken seriously? Let's talk about it. Here we go.
They done brought Amber Rose to the Republican National Convention. See, y'all, you see why y'all got to be careful. Y'all always want to invite white people to the cookout. And whenever the heat get too hot being black, especially the more they got to start being a little black like this and not like this, they always want to revert to being white. I know black. I know black. Not like this. No way. More like this. I'm not black. I'm not like them. I don't hush every Democratic rapper. Don't had Democratic rapper black felony baby. I don't went with all the men that's disproportionately affected by systematic racism and oppression. Don't use them same brothers to make millions and climb the social rank and be all over the TV, but I'm not black. I don't have black dick all in between my legs and in my butt, down my throat and out my ears, up my nose and through my toes. But I'm not black. Not like this, no way. Maybe like this, honey. I don't lay it low and spread it wide inside of every rapper house from New York to Alabama through Louisiana up through Texas, even in South Dakota, then swung back round down to California to the Bay Area, up through Nevada, went to Seattle because it never rained in Southern California, but I made them rain down on me. Let your love just fall like rain all in between my legs and in my butt and down my throat. But I'm not black. Not like that. Maybe like this, but not like that, honey, dude. I'm white. Now that I'm rich, baby, and I don't need to be nobody's black B-I-T-C-H, and I don't need that D-I-C-K. I'm white, honey. I might have did cartwheels, backflips, and Simone Biles style gymnastics on the black ding-a-ling, but I want to be classy based like Ivanka Trump because I'm white. Yes, God, honey, I am white. I'm white and I'm rich. I'm French vanilla, honey. I'm bald-headed with a tramp stamp on my forehead, but I'm French vanilla. I'm a different kind of white. I don't like black people. I'm Republican. I'm Republican, honey. Amber Rose took her ass over there. You know what's so funny? What's so funny is Black people, we have to laugh. We have to laugh at like what rich, out of touch white people really think about us, right? When it comes time for them on that other side to pick somebody to like be the bridge between their party and Black people, they always go out and get the wrong ones. You can tell that they care so little for Black people that they won't even spend enough money to hire a marketing company to do enough market research to realize who is the person that they're going to need from our community to build the bridge between their cooped out party and us. They went and got Omarosa. Girl, I could have saved them trillions of dollars by letting them know Black community don't mess with Omarosa. Omarosa couldn't lead us from the front porch to the mailbox, and my mailbox next to the door. That goes to show you how little of a space she could leave us. Then they went and got Candace Owens. We don't trust her. Then y'all went and got Amber. Who, like, I'm just laughing because I honestly don't know whose vote they are looking to get that they don't already have that Amber Rose is supposed to convince. Because it can't be Black people as a whole. Like, and if she is supposed to sway any votes, I need y'all to help me understand what demographic of the Black community is she supposed to be attracting at this point. Like, I don't even think the young, stupid, projected, Miami was on drugs, Black girls, I don't even think they want to be scrippers and hoes no more. They kind of want to be reality stars. They want to be reality stars and rappers and IG models. So I just have no idea. And then Amber Rose, you are old whore. You are old. All the whores that you would have influenced, all the whores that would have been ready to follow your lead, girl, them whores already 35. Girl, they don't already realize their life is over. They don't get their coochie away to half the United States and they get nothing for it. As a matter of fact, Amber Rose, you might want to sit down because you got a whole generation of whores that's mad with you because they didn't get their Kanye West outcome. All they got was a little bit of itchy, gitchy, yah-yah in between their legs and their butt. And now their coochie look like a Nestle Crunch Bar or one of those oatmeal cookies from Subway. They ain't got no friends. They ain't got no uterus. And they ain't got no man. Being a whore like you led them girls straight to hell. And now you supposed to come on and inspire somebody to vote. Girl, they'd have been better off making your ass the deputy director of health services. And you could have did an HIV, AIDS, syphilis campaign, starring your face and started the campaign in Houston. That's the only thing you could do for me, baby. You can lead me to the health department and how to get tested for STDs, Amber Rose. See, they be putting these people in the wrong departments. They be putting them in the wrong. They could put your ass in the sex trafficker division. Put her ass in the sex trafficker division. That way, that's believable. She could have came out and spoke to the little lost girls that's out there selling their puss down to the truck stop and to the toll booth, down there to Jimmy's Diner, down there to the Waffle House on Route 66. You got to put people in believable positions. They got this girl out here in voter outreach. We don't believe her in voter outreach. STD prevention, we believe believable. Sex trafficker, believable, baby. Matter of fact, we just gonna call her as Olivia Benson, Law and Order Special Victims Unit, SVU. That's what we gonna. Don't give her no honorary degree. Give her an honorary badge. Her name is Amber Rose Detective Benson, Sex Trafficker Division Sergeant under the Donald Trump campaign. That is what she could do. And since we in a deficit and the budget messed up, she gonna double bite as the STD Minister of Health for the CDC. Go ahead and get her apartment in DC and get her one in Atlanta with the CDC at, because we need that. And see, that's what she could be doing. She could be giving the girl symptoms of syphilis, symptoms of gonorrhea, symptoms of low self-esteem, and needing a seance because you got that whole spirit on you. It's in your bloodline. That's what they need. That's what they should have put her in that apartment. They should have put her in that department. I just hate to see people's talents just be wasted. Right here, while they had Angela Simmons swimming in them tubs of Oreos, you said, Pinky Cole, you say your business, the slutty vegan. Shit, she don't ate so much meat that she don't eat it no more. And she started a slut walk. It seems like that's the prime candidate to be a slutty vegan, a former meat vampire, a blood sucker. What better person to be a slutty vegan than a reformed meat vampire? That's not a minister of health over the STD department, outreach to the CDC of America and the health department. You should have had her laying up in a pool of Oreos. She making all the black and white children. And she black and white. She could have invoked sexiness in Oreos even better because she kind of is one. Black and white, and that's what they call it. I hope that's not a racial slur because I didn't mean to make it a racial slur if it is, but the black and white on it, man, she like being sexy and she used to having yeast infections and carrying on all that stuff. Them cookie crumbs get in your coochie. Lord have mercy. She gonna need a nurse after all them crumbs and stuff get in the crotch, and that's why I'm glad we got one on the damn line. It's finna tell us what all we could do, honey, if you get Oreo cookies in your crotch.
Please welcome Amber Rose from South Philadelphia.
Hello, my name is Amber Rose. I'm a model and entrepreneur. Thank you. But most importantly, I'm a mother. My whole world revolves around providing for my children, keeping them safe, and giving them an opportunity for a better life. That's something that unites all American parents, whether we're Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, or liberals. We all want a better country for our children. But I'm here tonight to tell you, no matter your political background, that the best chance we have to give our babies a better life is to elect Donald Trump President of the United States. Now, you may be wondering why I'm up here telling you this. I'm no politician and I don't want to be, but I do care about the truth. And the truth is that the media has lied to us about Donald Trump. I know this because for a long time I believed those lies, so I'm here to set the record straight. The first person I knew who supported Donald Trump was my father. I was shocked. My entire family is racially diverse. And I believed the left-wing propaganda that Donald Trump was a racist. My father said, "No, he's not, Amber. What are you talking about?" And when I insisted, he said, "Prove it." So to prove my father wrong, I did my research and looked into all things Donald Trump. People have to do their research. I watched all the rallies, and I started meeting so many of you, his red hat wearing supporters. I realized Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love. And that's when it hit me. These are my people. This is where I belong. So I let go of my fear of judgment, of being misunderstood, of getting attacked by the left, and I put the red hat on too. Thank you. Love you too. I never felt more free and more love for my country than I do now. I want to.
Bro, what does the tattoo say on her head? Who knows? Can someone put it in the chat? What does the tattoo say on her head? What does the tattoo say on her forehead? Why should we even be listening to her? Why is she speaking at a political campaign with a fucking tattoo on her head? Like what? Because then I'm about to get into what I really think. After this, I'm gonna let her speak her little whatever the hell she got to say. But I really need to know, what does that tattoo say on her head? It should say "fool." Exactly. Let's go.
I thank my father, who's in the audience tonight, for opening my eyes. He served over 20 years in the U.S. military. Thank you for your service, Dad. Where's he at? I love you, Dad. I love you. I love you so much. Thank you. When I met the president and Melania for the first time, he was kind and generous and funny as hell. Very funny. The First Lady was gracious and smart with a smile that will brighten up any room. If you're watching this tonight, you know our country is in trouble. Just like me. When you go to the store and buy food for your family, you're shocked. When you fill up your gas tank, you're pissed. I know I am. And when you turn on the news, you are just exhausted. Inflation is out of control. And you know in your heart it was not like this under Donald Trump. My message to you tonight comes from a humble place. The left told me to hate Trump, and even worse, to hate the other side, the people who support him. When you cut through the lies, you realize the truth. American families were better when Donald Trump was president. We were safer, wealthier, and stronger. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote to put money back in our pockets and good food on our kids' plates. Yes. Or, as Trump would say, it's a vote to make America great again. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let me say this. Because you have these two candidates right? And I have not seen any more passion.
Anybody who's subjugated.
To me, like, go ahead, Hippie. I'm gonna add Hippie. Hippie, what's up? You there?
Oh no, you had invited me, so I'm just listening, girl. It's who is this? Who is this? Is this Don King?
No, this is Cornell West. He's like a Cornell West is a professor. He's a doctor. He's like Dr. Cornell West. He is like he's running for president too, right? But they're blocking him everywhere he goes, right? But it's so that you only have these two candidates to choose. But when it really comes down to it, you have a person that's like a Nobel laureate. You know what I'm saying? Like a person that like really like have works in the community that fought Black Lives Matter, fought in all this stuff. So let me tell you who he is. Okay, here he is.
Dr. Cornell West is running for president. We're going to talk to him in a second, but first I want to see how he rolls. Watch this.
Years have been terrorized, traumatized, and hated, and we dish out love warriors and freedom fighters every generation, which means that we stand in solidarity with anybody who's occupied, anybody who's subjugated, anybody who's exploited, and that's why we focus on Gaza at this moment, because a genocidal attack is taking place.
Dr. Cornell West, of course, former professor of the practice of public philosophy at Harvard University, professor emeritus at Princeton University, one of the great orators of my lifetime, now running for president. So, Dr. West, you're talking about Gaza there, but what's interesting is that at this point, the three leading candidates, Biden, Trump, and RFK Jr., are taking a very unpopular position on Gaza. And it is a curious thing for people running for president to take such an unpopular position. Why do you think they're doing that?
But you're talking about Biden, Trump, and Kennedy Jr.
That's right.
Those three, yeah, they're supporting the genocide. They're denying the genocide. They're enabling the genocide. They're supporting the genocide. I think one of the reasons why they're able to do that is because so many of our fellow citizens, my dear brother, you laid this out so beautifully in your critique of corporate America, corporate media, that they're not getting the truth about what's going on. There's a whitewashing, there's a sanitizing, there's a sterilizing that's taking place that hides and conceals the suffering of precious Palestinians. And so the thickness of the lies, and you know from Fox News and other places, if you tell a lie over and over and over and over and over and over again, people begin to think that maybe even just a half truth is the only alternative. And so they might, so the CNN or MSNBC might mention something every once in a long while. I mean, take, for example, the 274 precious folk who were killed in this recent vicious attack on the refugee camp, right? Now, those were Palestinian lives, Israeli, and American. 64 precious Palestinian babies, 57 precious Palestinian women. Most of the others are innocent. And what did the Americans do? They watched. What did the Americans do? Allow the terroristic IDF to use US equipment. What did the Americans do? Watched it from the drones, watched it from the piers. What was the response of the US government? To praise the operation and not say a mumbling word about the dead. The Palestinian dead, vast majority, or the American life taken, or the Israeli life taken. So that what you actually get is a full revelation of the unbelievable of racism in a certain sense, because what we're really talking about is they're saying to the world, precious Palestinians don't mean anything to us. That's what Biden is saying. That's what Harris is saying. That's what Austin is saying. That's what Blinken is saying. We can go right down on that's what Sullivan is saying. And that's why I call them war criminals, my brother.
Yeah.
There's got to be some moral compass in the public dialogue when you reach the point where you just normalize genocide. You normalize genocide denying. You normalize genocide enabling as if that's somehow business as usual. Not as long as I'm alive. Not as long as the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Fannie Lou Hamer, and John Coltrane are alive. No. And you, of course, laid that case out against Brother Piers Morgan. He's yet to bounce back since you.
All right. Hey, sis. Hey, what's up?
Okay. I understand what he's saying. I really, really do. But my thing is like, we speaking of the American politics, and what the fuck are we supposed to do about all that? Like, us normal people are struggling to get by, and you want us to worry about stuff that's going on in other countries. I feel bad for the dead babies and bad, but I mean, we struggling in America. So what do he want us to do? That's all I had to say. I'm about to mute back up. But I get what he's saying though. I definitely get what he's saying. It's a sad situation. It is. Can't hear nothing.
Can you hear it?
Nah, we can't hear. I can't hear the video. In the comments, do y'all hear the video? And you a little staticky too.
I think that the whole like storm and everything is affecting my stuff.
Yeah, probably so.
Let me try to add it again. And let me play it. Tell me if you can hear it.
No, we can't hear. Comments. Is it just us? Comments. Can y'all hear? Oh, they say no. They say no too. Damn. I ain't gonna lie. I really want to finish hearing his point of views. You know me. I listen to all point of views. I'm just saying, what the fuck I'm supposed to do about Palestine? I'm struggling to pay my phone bill. No shade. It's a sad situation, but I mean, I can't do nothing. What we supposed to do? Half of America poor right now. I feel like we should be. We still can't hear.
Him with the truth.
Now we can hear
because he couldn't take it. He had no response.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your moral courage in taking this on, because it's obviously not easy. Most corporate media will either yell at you or ignore you for doing that. I want to talk about how hard the race has been in a second, but let's stay on this topic, because whether it's Gaza or the control of corporate media, the overall corporate rule that we're in, the donors, how they control politicians, etc. In your lifetime, did you think that things were going to get better than this? And have things gotten a little bit better while still not being fixed on some fronts? Certainly, obviously, or have things gone backwards in some ways?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I've always believed that we are very much a wretched species, though, brother. Most of the history of our species, the history of organized greed and weaponized hatred and institutionalized indifference toward the vulnerable. What's wonderful about our species are those who muster the courage to have a resilience and a resistance against the greed and the hatred and the indifference. And so I'm never surprised by evil, no matter how thick it is. I'm never paralyzed by despair, that I have a view of the world. You can imagine, comes out of biblical texts. You can see it in Shakespeare, you see it in Chekhov, you can see it in the blues, you see it in Toni Morrison, you can see it in Coltrane, where you recognize that we are who we are as human beings, and we're wretched. We're too scared. We're too intimidated. We're too fearful. We're too cowardly. We're too conformist. And we're also beautifully courageous, beautifully loving. I got a mom and daddy that testify to that. Beautifully communal. We've had acts of solidarity that put smiles on our faces in the face of domination, in the face of occupation, in the face of organized greed and hatred. So you never lose sight of those two poles of who we are. So that on the one hand, my brother, fascism is on the march, not just across the nation, but around the world. There's no doubt about that. Did I think that fascism would escalate? Well, I remember reading Herbert Marcuse saying American fascism would in fact take place, and it would more likely take place by means of an electorate that was characterized by unruly passion and massive ignorance and fear, frustration, owing to the fact they're being exploited and there's no alternative to the weak liberalism. That's Herbert Marcuse, the thesis advisor of the great Angela Davis way back in the 1960s. I remember reading that. Yeah. And in some ways, he's very prophetic.
Yeah. So one more thing about this, because as I just happened to be watching a movie about the life of Bayard Rustin, and you know, and he was viciously attacked and lost some teeth, and when he had the temerity to sit in the front of a bus earlier in his life, and he's one of the great civil rights leaders of our in this country, and help organize some of the great marches and protests. And so, and I remember, of course, the posters that those folks were holding up. I am a man, right? And as you see people saying that the 1,200 Israeli brothers and sisters that were lost on October 7th, monumental, worst attack against Jews since the Holocaust, awful. Agreed. But the 37,000 dead Palestinians, 30 times as much, not important, and that Israel should keep going and that we should finance it. I just keep thinking of those posters, I am a man. And what's your sense of?
I'm going to, instead of me showing this interview with Cornell, I'm going to show the interview with African American news thing, Real Life Street Stars. I was the one that helped him get on Real Life Street Stars. I brought him, me and my friend worked towards getting him to Dallas, Texas, and I put him on this couch, right? The blue couch, right? And because in the wake of all this stuff going on, I feel like we need to understand that there are options. We don't need to only be stuck on one or the other, right? Now Cornel West has been running the whole time, right? But no one knows it. Okay? So I'm gonna show you the Real Life Street Stars interview he did. I believe that news channel is more focused on Palestine and that the other. So let's get into a platform that's going to ask him real questions about what we have to work on. You know what I'm saying? Because I believe that, Hippie's right. We talking about Palestine, but we suffering here, right?
Mm-hmm. No shade.
Suffering here. What do we do here? I get it. They was whatever, they went through it, whatever. Let's go into it. Okay. So let's go into it.
Hold on, real quick. Hold on, real quick for you. Let's play. I'm not gonna lie, it's a sad situation because I be seeing the videos of the babies and stuff like that.
Right.
You feel me? I be seeing, so it's sad, but it's like your own country is suffering as well. So it's like, what?
Right. Why should it be about Palestine and this, that, the other?
Right.
Everyone
You know how many homeless people they have in America right now?
Exactly.
But go ahead, press the video.
Hippie said, Lakeisha, come on up, sis. Come up, sis. I believe this should be anybody that's out there, it don't matter how many people in the chat. We need to come together because this is going to be the next president of the United States. And so you have one getting shot in the ear, and I don't know what's going on with that. Then you have one that have dementia, What the hell is going on? Like, what are we doing? So we about to vote?
Wait. Now he got dementia and Alzheimer's at the same time. Girl, he be so sleepy.
However, all that. So you need to be in a group home, honey. I'm about to
Okay.
open a home, honey. They
And
need
I
to have
never knew about Cornel West. I voted for Trump I voted for Trump the first time, and I voted for the second census only because I grew up Republican because my grandma is a Republican because she's a Christian and Republicans have Christian views. So she always was Republican. But then as I got older and my first time voting, when I turned 18, Obama was coming into office and I voted for him. And then once me and my grandma sat down and talked, my grandma was like, look at the history of the Democrats and the Republicans. When the Republicans are in office, America is good. When Democrats get in office, it's hard up. It sucks.
Right.
And they lead these campaigns like, oh, we're going to do this for you, we're going to do that for you, and don't do nothing for us.
Right. So we about to hear a candidate that has been running. Because I'm going to tell you this. Let me tell you about myself. Like, I have been supporting the whole Cornel West campaign. I'm not going to lie. I've been over here Cornel West all the way through. But the way that the whole thing is going, it's like it makes it so. So I'm going to show you guys this. Listen, just so you know, I'm Cornel West 2024. I'm Cornel West. Okay? Because I'm like, fuck both of them. So just so
I'm Trump 2024 because guess what? He got his war wounds. You heard me? He a real nigga now. You heard me?
So we fixing to have this conversation. We about to show the Real Life Street Stars, which is the platform I helped them get on, to get more access and more because the thing is that he went on the platform and no one really watched it. And I'm like, man,
because it wasn't about a certain person. We're not gonna say that person name, but they breadwinner.
Right. So we're gonna see what he said on Real Life Street Stars. So shouts out to Real Life Street Stars. We're about to watch this, and we're gonna discuss this after this. As we go on, we're gonna do commentary. So let's go.
You are a force for good here, not just in Dallas and the country, but the world.
Thank you so much. I can't even go down your accolades. We won't have time for that. So for that reason, I would like to just jump right into it. This conversation that we're about to have now is a conversation we would have had with you many times over decades ago. And it probably been the same kind of conversation, but we're in a different scenario right now in which you are putting your bid in to be president of the United States. And first and foremost, I salute you for taking the effort to say, let me see real justice, real change happen. But we want to start with, as far as your history to be, because we did watch an interview and they stated that you're kind of following, I don't want to say Donald Trump's method, but basically you had no situation where you were a state senator, where you were a judge. So you move right to a point of being a philosopher, political activist, and you're like, right now I'm putting my bid in. And that's kind of the same thing Donald Trump did in himself and won. So I don't want to negate that, hey, you need to have any type of status prior.
Right.
But I want to ask you for your party. It's a third party, and what is the name of the party for those that don't know?
Well, I started as a independent after I had left the People's and Green Party, and then I decided to form my own party, Justice for All Party, because in order to gain valid access, that if you have a party, it could be 5,000 signatures needed. If you run it by yourself, independent, it's 50,000. So it depends on which state. Each state is different. Now we already on Alaska, Oregon, we got Utah, we got South Carolina, we got Colorado. We're gonna have another 15 in a matter of a month or so. So we are really on the move. We got tremendous momentum. But you're absolutely right about experience as an elected official. As you see, I have been running for justice for 55 years. And I'm a Christian, so I'm running for Jesus too, but I'm running for justice. And when you run for justice, you're always looking at the least of these. You're looking at the folk who have been pushed to the margins, the folk who have been pushed to the periphery, making sure that poor and working people are at the center of your vision. And so in that sense, as my brother Clifton said, that he's here, it's a beautiful thing to be here in Dallas, right?
There you go.
This is a paradigm shift. The people not used to seeing a politician who's not looking at the world through the lens of Wall Street and stock market. No, that's not me at all. I look at the world through the lens of what Sly Stone called everyday people. James Cleveland called ordinary people, poor and working people, precious as they are.
So let me ask, what did you see that wasn't happening in prior presidencies that you said, I would like to go ahead and make some real change versus what you saw from Trump, Biden, Obama, even, and going back, decades before?
Yeah, because we have a political system that so oftentimes has really legalized bribery and normalized corruption. That's why so many citizens feel so down and out and highly frustrated, because our politicians have been bought off by big money. Our politicians are deferential to big industry, corporations and oligopolies and so forth. When it comes to working people, small businesses, when it comes to working people trying to gain wages, 62% of our fellow citizens live paycheck to paycheck in the richest nation in the history of the world. You think about that. 1% of the population owns 90% of the wealth. 3 individuals have wealth equivalent to 160 million Americans, 50%. That's a level of grotesque inequality. I'm running on a program. I want to abolish poverty because I come out of the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. Fannie Lou Hamer, see, that's who I am. I come out of Irene B. West and Clifton West and Shiloh Baptist Church and a little influence from the Black Panther Party, but I always held on to Jesus. They were secular and atheistic. Hey, I understand, but I'm a Jesus-loving free Black man, right? So all we have in this campaign is nothing but a moment in a movement of the spillover of a tradition of a great Black people. And I ain't nothing but a little small wave in that ocean. And this campaign is a wave in that ocean of a great people. And yes, it spills over to Nigeria. It spills over to Angola. It spills over to the continent, African people. But in the end, we're just human. But we always acknowledge what was poured into us. The love, the courage, the integrity, the sense of determination poured into me by Irene and Cliff and Shiloh.
When you become president, what is the biggest thing that's going to change?
I think the biggest thing that's going to change, my dear brother, is that we're going to have massive disinvestment from military, massive investment in satisfying the basic needs of people. So you won't see any poor people, you won't see any homeless or unhoused, because there'll be a right to housing. There'll be income that's available. People will not be able to fall so low. People can still thrive with small businesses and so forth, but there'll be public oversight of the huge corporations that hemorrhage, almost like Ross Perot used to say, that sucking sound.
Yes.
But he was talking about the budget. I'm talking about big corporations sucking that profit out, sucking that extraction out. You see, those resources will be available to satisfy health care, quality education, which will be free, housing, which is a right, and safe communities. Police will be under community oversight, so they won't be doing things without any accountability. It would be a very, very different world, and it'd be a world that's so qualitatively in contrast to what we have now. We got a world now, society now, the organized greed is just running out of control. The institutionalized hatred is reinforced, and the indifference toward the vulnerable is pervasive. It'd be a very, very different world.
Do you have fear that you, not saying you, but in the situation as far as the office of presidency, that there is congressional puppets, that you possibly could fall victim to being a congressional puppet, where they have you in office or they will get you in office to control a narrative?
They will always try. They will always try. That has to do with your own spiritual quality and your character. So if you're a free man or a free woman, I've got a magnificent running mate, as you probably know. Yeah, Dr. Melina Abdullah, you see. She's free too. But when you're free, that the possibilities of being diluted or co-opted are minimal. Minimal. It's like Duke Ellington playing with Lawrence Welk. He ain't gonna play no Lawrence Welk music, even though he's playing with Lawrence Welk, because he's true to the tradition that produced him. And Luther Vandross ain't gonna sound like Pat Boone.
There you go. Yeah,
no, not at all.
We're gonna touch on your musical background, because your musical background is eclectic, from the blues and all that. But let me ask you, for your running mate, she has a Muslim background.
That's right.
And what, as far as, it's always in the key in picking your running mate as well, because this person also has the second notion to be president right after you. What was your decision making as far as picking Ms. Marissa as far as to be your running mate?
Yeah, when my beloved wife and I, Anahita, when we called Sister Melina, my question was, it would be wonderful if you would join the ticket. I said, but our highest standard is putting a smile on the face of Fannie Lou Hamer and Martin Luther King Jr. from the grave. That's the highest standard possible.
Oh yeah, they're coming. We'll allow them to come.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, indeed.
So, with that being said,
should I say that again?
Yeah, let's say just with that interruption, please.
Yes, absolutely. No, when I called my dear sister Melina Abdullah, Dr. Abdullah, when Anahita, my wife, I told her, I said, we as a twosome must always attempt to put a smile on the face of Fannie Lou Hamer and Martin Luther King Jr. You see, why? Because that's what moral spiritual greatness is. And politics has to have a moral and spiritual dimension to it. It's not just Machiavellian calculation. It's zeroing in on poor working people who have been left out for so long. And she, trustworthy, first thing I'm looking for. You're in a foxhole, you got to have somebody you can trust. But second, as Luther Vandross says, you got to find somebody tried and true.
There you go.
Tried and true. She'd been to jail so many times, SWAT teams going to a house 3 times. She'd been hit in the head unconscious and went to the hospital and bounced back into what? In the name of the people, loving the people. That's tried and true. That's the kind of person you want on the ticket.
There you go. I like it.
Oh, yes.
I have to ask, Obama, when he ran, he pushed the hope, I guess you could say propaganda. Trump, he has Make America Great Again. Do you have any type of slogan or any type of rhetoric that you're pushing forward as far as that becomes a mantra for your campaign?
Truth, justice, and love.
Oh, there you go.
Truth, justice, and love. And the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. And justice is what love looks like in public.
So let's just get right into it. Trump right now is on trial for, the situation that happened back in early 2000s as far as trying to, of course, cover up funds paid to, you consider mistresses or anything of that nature. With that happening right now as we speak, and we seen a man light himself on fire in front of the courthouse while on day one. From your standpoint, being just, on the political side of things, but just really on the social side of things, what message does it send to the nation with this trial going on and you see people going to those extremes in America where they would light themselves on fire, something that you would see in a third world country, to protest or either to bring attention to what's happening right here?
Remember, we also had the brother set himself on fire given the situation in Gaza with the genocide and the ethnic cleansing and the apartheid-like conditions. We're reaching a point where people will go to extreme actions based on a profound sense of powerlessness, impotence, feeling as if they don't make a difference, and they express themselves in that act of setting themselves on fire. No, I think that.
Hey,
welcome,
hey,
Cass.
Jackie. Oh, that's
Hey,
Cass.
Hippie.
I thought that was Jackie.
No, that's Cass. That's Cass. Cass or
Oh,
Cass?
It's Cass.
oh
right.
no, I was. I'm sorry. Go ahead, y'all finish.
No, it's okay.
No, I was asking Jackie would she want to come up and talk because I just want to know her thoughts and her about her comment.
Right.
No,
I think she don't like to come up. She likes to
Yeah,
be.
I that's what I wrote in the comments. I said I know you don't be coming up, but just because I just want to know. But anyway, we can discuss it with Cass. What you gotta say, Saint? I'm sorry, I'm from New Orleans. That don't mean you stink. That's just how we talk.
That's okay. No offense taken. No, I was just actually reading your comment, what you typed in the chat when you were saying that you were calling people and only one person knew. I'm not surprised by that because that see this right here and DJ, I am floored that you were able to get Dr. West. Oh my God. That's like he's one of the people that I would really love to just sit down and have a conversation with. I absolutely adore him. I really, really do. Um, but yeah,
But
the reason
you
this
gotta make sure he talks slow.
well, I'm from New York, so I'd
Some
be able to keep up.
sometimes
Oh
you
yeah,
feel like
y'all talk fast. Y'all talk fast.
Yeah.
sometimes like being highly intelligent can be worked for you and or against you. So I think that he's so
Oh,
intelligent
absolutely.
that and he
Absolutely.
big words that you don't understand what he's saying, but in reality, he really means the best for people. Now Jackie says, I said that because he wants to be just like Adolf Hitler. What
Who? Dr. West?
She was speaking. No. She was speaking about Trump, and
Oh,
she was speaking
Oh.
about Trump, and
I'm like, what?
I said no.
yeah, she was talking about Trump, girl.
I'm sorry. I got some phone
Oh,
calls. I got some phone
but you
calls. In between.
know,
No,
huh?
she was talking about Trump, and the only reason I asked her to come up is because this is an open panel, but I know she don't come up. But I am a Trump supporter, so I just wanted to
Okay.
see if we could dialogue and see,
No, that's not Lakeisha. That's Kaz. It's K-A-S. K-S.
Yeah. I saw that's when she said he want to be like
Lakeisha
Adolf. I
coming.
just want to see if we could dialogue and see, that's all.
Oh, I
But
get what you mean. I get what you mean.
if she don't
But
want to
I
come
want
up,
y'all to
that's perfectly fine.
look. If Lakeisha still in the audience, come on up. But I really want you guys to see that this guy's a very sincere person. He's so sincere. I
Yeah,
met him in person.
slow it down a little bit more.
All right, slow it down.
Grief.
Continue.
He gonna sound like Barry White.
Correct. I'm sorry, girl. I got my whiskey. He needs to slow down.
Right. Sometimes when you so intelligent, you lose people because you be so
Mhm.
all these big ass words you using,
I
but
think
he
it's just because of the fire, like his fire, his passion. Like, because when he
Yeah,
gets to start talking
he's trying to
about
get it out.
like the
He's trying to
old
hurry up. He's trying to
activists
get it
and
out.
stuff,
Yeah.
yeah, he just be like, it just goes. He just goes on like a whole flow, and you just be sitting there just
hmm
trying to keep up. So I get it.
Yeah, like he's just trying to get it out because he feel like people not listening to him.
Hmm.
I believe so too. Yeah.
Truth,
I'm gonna mute up.
justice, and love.
There you go.
Truth, justice, and love. And the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. And justice is what love looks like in public.
So let's just get right into it. Trump right now is on trial for the situation that happened back in early 2000 as far as trying to, of course, cover up funds paid to because you consider mistresses or anything of that nature. With that happening right now as we speak, and we seen the man light himself on fire in front of the courthouse or while on day one. From your standpoint, being just, on the political side of things, but just really on the social side of things, what message does this send to the nation with this trial going on and you see people going to those extremes in America where they would light themselves on fire or something that you would see in a third world country to protest or either to bring attention to what's happening right here?
Remember, we also had the brother set himself on fire given the situation in Gaza with the genocide. and the ethnic cleansing and the apartheid-like conditions. We're reaching a point where people will go to extreme actions based on a profound sense of powerlessness, impotence, feeling as if they don't make a difference, and they express themselves in that act of setting themselves on fire. No, I think that one of the things we have to come to terms with is what Malcolm X called chickens coming home to roost. What did he mean by that? He meant that you reap what you sow. He meant that sooner or later, the very thing that you have been pushing aside and repressing will return with a tremendous power that will call into question the grounds upon which you stand.
Is it too slow
We're
now?
in a Malcolm X moment. What does
Huh?
that mean? It means that the
It's not
that
too
have been
slow, but I can
hiding
understand them.
so much poverty and pain and misery is being stripped off. And people can see it. And I know Cat Williams says it's the year of the truth, right? Okay, well, he's a comic artist in his own fascinating way. He said the truth more and more will be revealed. So it is about the country. So it is about the country. And so in the case of Trump, see, Trump has been somebody, he's been a bona fide gangster since I met him over 40-some years ago, but he's a wannabe gangster, you know. It means he can say anything and do anything and get away with it. See, that's what gangsters do. They just say anything, do anything, get away with it. Gangsters come in all colors. I got gangster in me. You know, I got to work on it every day. You want to say something and get away with it. You want to do something, get away with it. No, life's not like that. You got accountability. Sooner or later, you got to take responsibility. Finally, now you see him in court. Boy, he's a different kind of brother in court, isn't he?
Oh, man.
Oh, he's diminished. Lord have mercy. Humbled and everything. Hey, where's all of that swagger? Come on, brother. I thought you had that Scarface model. No, you've been humbled now. That's true for all of us. All of us got to be accountable. Same is true with the trigger-happy policeman. Same is true with anybody who does something they ought not to do. Sooner or later, you got to take accountability. But that's also true for classes. That's true for white supremacists. It's true for male supremacists who mistreat the sisters and so forth. Sooner or later, you're not going to be the master of the universe. Sooner or later, you're going to be accountable. That's what's happening right now with Trump. But let me tell you this before I stop.
Let's please.
There's a good chance, Brother Johnny, that I won't be running against Trump or Biden.
I felt that.
Trump could be on his way to jail. Biden to do an LBJ moment and say, I no longer am running because the polls have completely undercut me everywhere I go. They got the anti-war protesters. I can't get out a word my party is saying. I'm too old. I got rigor mortis. I'm running out of gas. Hey, we don't know. But my calling is I'm going to be consistent and constant, trying to tell the truth and seek justice and be faithful unto death. This is just...
Did he not call what was fixing to happen?
Well, he got one right. Trump ain't going to jail. Ain't no way.
He's not going to jail, but hell, he just got shot in the ear. You know, I don't know.
He got clipped in the ear. Yes, he did get clipped in the ear.
Basically, what he's saying, it might be a chance that both of these candidates get kicked out some way, and it's going to be the underdogs that like get the chance to like actually like be seen at this point. And I believe in that. You know what I'm saying, because you know what, it's messed up how they did this. So let's go.
It's not a campaign. This is my life. This is my calling.
You know, and I saw that because, you know, some people question, well, is he dividing the vote? Is he, what's his purpose of running? But I look at Trump's legal issues, and he has more coming possibly, where this is not, there's a few more trials, federal, Atlanta, and people are saying, as far as with Trump, of course, no president has ever had criminal charges brought up against him, and let alone have to consider possibly going to jail. They have to see even how that looks. With Biden, we're technically seeing, let's just say, to be honest, lapses in memory that is coming at some real unfortunate and unopportune times. To where we never really question age in presidency. You want to make sure everyone has their morals together. And that's why I say, from your knowledge in the system and just people knowing who you are, and with Trump going on with Biden, your chances are even rising even more. That's why it's more important to have this conversation.
That's exactly right. And I deeply appreciate that, though, brother, because any historical moment teaches us that history is incomplete, unpredictable, and unfinished. And what we do makes a difference. And we got to do what we called to do. You don't check the polls and check this tendency and that tendency. You tell the truth and seek justice and throw down.
How old is it too old to be president, would you say?
It depends on the quality of your mind and the dynamics of your heart. You could be young and a gangster and a coward. You can be older and still courageous. But it differs from person to person, my dear brother. It really does. Now, when you reach the point where people begin to raise the question, does he really have both paddles in the water? You got to take that question seriously.
So I have to ask, we see, and again, we have an urban platform.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, do you feel like on the Caucasian side of things that they'll give you a fair shake? I've seen a couple of interviews to where they're digging into your financial past. I don't want to say they could discredit you, but they're trying to, again, media could paint narratives. Do you feel like the Caucasian side of things, the Fox News and the way they report things, that they'll give you a fair shake leading up into the polls and the primaries and kind of getting past as far as, getting to the next step?
Yeah, I think that anytime anybody tries to really tell the truth and seek justice on behalf of poor and working people, you got to get ready for literal assassination, character assassination, being misunderstood, misconstrued, rebuked, scorned, lied on, pushed to the margins. And at that point, that's a human thing. You could have black folk doing that. You could have brown folk doing it. You could have white folk doing that, and so forth. It's true that the mainstream in America does not like to talk about the organized greed in corporate America and the monopolies. They don't like to talk about the 62 cents for every $1 in the U.S. discretionary budget going to military expenditure, you see. So in that sense, anytime you raise issues that are a challenge and a threat to the status quo, the status quo is very multiracial up there. So you got Sister Linda vetoing the resolutions for our precious Palestinian brothers and sisters over and over and over again. I mean, it's a sad spectacle. So black faces in high places don't translate into truth and justice. It's the kind of choices that people make, but you're never preoccupied by how unfair other people are. I'm not surprised by evil or paralyzed by despair, brother. I'm a freedom fighter. I'm on the battlefield. So that means I got to do what I'm called to do, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what the context really is. It just means then I'm willing to pay the consequences, though.
So I have to ask you, right now they're looking at a possible TikTok ban, where they're looking to just, take it away for Americans. I got to ask you, are you in favor of that? And why or why not, if, you feel like TikTok should go away?
Well, I think I always look at the arguments and the evidence. They want to eliminate TikTok because China has significant ownership there, you see. Now, you can imagine if China and other countries did that in terms of American business presence in their country, it'd be a whole different situation. I'm a golden rule kind of brother. You got to do unto others, that you would have others to do unto you. For the powerful, the golden rule is he who has the goal rules. That's not me.
So Hippie and y'all still here. I want to let y'all know y'all still here. I just made this like bigger so that people could read what he's saying, because there is a mic situation where it's like really like high and bass. I don't know why they did that. I don't understand why they didn't get the mic right. But maybe because
DJ,
go ahead,
no,
Ty.
go ahead. No, I was gonna ask you, are you showing this whole thing or are you clipping it up?
Well, what I'm gonna do is, I mean, if you want to like intervene, go ahead. Like I'm gonna show it, show the whole thing, and then you guys can like say something in between. Say, hey, I want to say something. I can stop it. You can say what you.
Okay.
I really want to show
I
the whole.
just want
Really, because this was done months ago. This was done about 2 months ago, and nobody saw it that are here. And I'm like, bro, this
yeah,
was.
it's unfortunate, but this unfortunately is this is grassroots at its finest. When you heard people talking about, like, maybe a couple of elections ago, back when Obama even was running, they would use terms like grassroots, sitting at the kitchen table. This right here is grassroots now, because you don't have,
It's the definition of grassroots.
Absolutely. When you are putting your feet to the pavement, this is equivalent to going door to door, a candidate going literally door to door and introducing him or her, well, himself, because that was years ago, to the public and inviting them personally to rallies. This is what the equivalent of that. And it's sad because even no matter how educated you are, how accomplished you are, how well spoken you are, experienced you are, if you do not have a corporation backing you, you don't even have a foot in the door. And for somebody like this man right here, not to be, and he's on the platforms because they invite him to Fox. Fox News invites this man, and they don't ridicule him when he's on there. They respect him. CNN, MSN, you name it. He's on all the major networks. But as far as pushing him and supporting his campaign, it's non-existent, and that's only because it's set up that way. You know, the person, they already have their picks. You got a Kennedy on the ticket. A Kennedy? And we don't even know that? Like, I didn't even know that there was an actual Kennedy on the ticket. I mean, I knew about Dr. West, but I didn't know about Kennedy running too. You know?
He's been doing stuff. He's been all over, but you don't
Yeah,
really
but I didn't know he was running. Like,
press club.
what party is he running under? Is he
He made his own party. He made his own party
no,
because
not Dr. West, Kennedy.
I don't know, probably the Green or the Liberation Party or whatever, Libertarian.
Right. It's probably one of those.
But
Yeah.
he didn't want to like be in one of those parties because they were trying to control. Like, oh, okay, you see this the work the type of stuff he's doing. Like, he's always been a person that like really like Forbes. Like this guy is like, you understand what I'm saying? Like when you
Dr.
look,
West is he is the last of the unbought, unsold, true blue activist. He is the last. Sharpton, he's bought and sold. But brothers like Dr. West, they the true OGs that's about it, you know, will get in the mud. He's not afraid of that.
scroll down this thing so you can see who
Yeah.
he is like, this is not like a person that's like random
Yes.
for president. This guy
Yes.
is an activist. I mean, he done been when they had Black Lives Matter, he got arrested with everybody else. He got arrested
That's
too.
right. And Trump knows him. He knows him well. Trump knows Dr. West. He knows who he is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just
Oh,
scrolling
he's
down. I just
independent.
typed in Cornell
Okay.
West. I just typed in Cornell West and just scrolled down YouTube and like this
If
guy.
anybody, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
If anybody would like to like really get fired up and watch some amazing programming, this is right. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tavis Smiley, but he used to be on PBS and they kicked him off. They fired him. But anyway, he had this convention. Dr. West was there and Minister Farrakhan was there. When I tell you inspirational, oh my God. This happened probably like 11 years ago before they banned Farrakhan from all the platforms. And they had this, and they were talking about, I think it was during Obama's first term. And when all that talk was happening about someone possibly trying to take him out. So they were trying to rally the people to support the man, but also to hold them to task, hold them accountable. But I would suggest that.
I'm gonna find out that one. But I'm gonna tell you this one. We're even Candace Owens, right?
Years after slavery, the Black community was doing better. We were going up, up, up.
That was Candace Owens arguing that, hey, it is socialism that has led to the terrible economic situation for people of color. And the debate that she had was with Cornell West, as you might have seen in that video. Laura Ingraham hosted this debate segment. And Candace Owens said a lot of really dumb things throughout. Let's take a look.
Come on, 100 years after slavery, the Black community was doing better. We were going up, up, up. Then suddenly they socialized our community via welfare policies, and the Black community started going down, down, down. And you're sitting here supporting a candidate that is advocating for making that on a larger scale. He's saying, we're not just going to do it to the Black community, we're going to do it to every community in America. You know his policies do not work. You know that socialism has led to more deaths than anything else in the last 100 years.
So the talking point, I know. So the talking point that Candace Owens has been pushing, she's no longer with Turning Point USA. But when she was at Turning Point USA, she was paid to say that it is not systemic racism that leads to, the disparity in wealth and income between, white individuals and Black individuals in America. It's because of socialist policies. It's because of welfare that the Black community is being held down. Now, first of all, that makes no sense. We know, and we're gonna debunk that in just a second. But think about who funds Turning Point USA. They're the very corporate donors that corrupt our politicians to push for deregulation, to push for tax cuts. So look, they're very savvy. It is a multi-pronged approach. It doesn't just stop at corrupting politicians. They attempt to corrupt education. They attempt to, corrupt young minds, which is what's happening with Turning Point USA. And it's terrible and it's disgusting because systemic racism is an issue. We've given you multiple examples of that throughout the years. And just hearing her try to talk about history is hilarious, especially considering what she had to say about white nationalism in the past.
When you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. He was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German. And thinking about how it could go bad down the line, I don't really have an issue with nationalism. I really don't.
What they won't tell you about the statistics and the rise of white nationalism is that they've simply changed the data set points by widening the definition of hate crimes and upping the number of reporting agencies that are able to report on them. Black conservatives may have the audacity to think for themselves and become educated about our history and the myth of things like the Southern Switch and the Southern Strategy, which never happened.
Yeah, okay. So look, people like Candace Owens lead pathetic lives because they're paid to sell their own identity out. And so that's just the reality of it, because none of the things that she says is true. And so I guess they get paid handsomely. I don't know how they sleep at night. So let's begin to correct the things that she said. First of all, she, on 2 different occasions,
Breaking right now in the WRAL Live Center, we have just learned that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will be allowed to run for president in North Carolina. State elections officials voted to approve his political party for the 2024 ballot. The board also voted to reject Cornel West. He will not be allowed to run. RFK running could throw a wrench into the campaigns here for both Biden and Trump. North Carolina was one of the most closely divided states in the last presidential election. RFK Jr. is expected to poll support from both Trump and Biden.
When was that?
And big developments today impacting your vote in November. State election officials have paved the way for Robert F.
Breaking.
When was that? Jen.
Stephen Lauren,
That was 6 hours ago.
That report that you just played was 6 hours ago?
6 hours ago, yeah.
Party and quote do the right thing. Republicans here, local
wow.
leaders in North Carolina still calling out the Board of Elections though for what they're not doing.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
That vote tonight means another political party will be on your ballot this fall, the Constitution Party. Last month, the Democratic majority on the State Board of Elections voted against certifying it, and 2 others, but said they'd revisit the matter after investigating concerns about misleading petition gatherers.
If the board's going to impose a deadline, it should be obviously we want to get the name sooner rather than later.
Today, that happened. The board saying the Constitution Party will need to have the names for all of their nominees for office in 2 weeks. Yet the board still deferred actions on parties led by RFK Jr. and Cornel West, both of whom are running for president. Today, Speaker of the North Carolina House, Tim Moore, said, quote, Democratic partisans on the State Board of Elections have ignored clear state law and refused to certify third parties that pose a threat to Joe Biden in November. This is election interference at its worst. Speaker Moore said they'll be looking at the State Board of Elections decisions in a hearing.
I want to say something.
Stephen Lauren.
Yeah. It's that's to me that's so unfortunate because clearly, you know, like we were saying earlier, the 2-party system in this country, I mean, it's just, well, the major 2-party system, Republican, Democrat, is just antiquated, tried and through. It's unfortunate that all these other parties are able, you know, that are forming are not getting a larger platform to get the word out there to get people involved. Because if I could sign up for right now, I'm an independent. I'm neither Republican or Democrat, you know. And as far as who am I voting for this year, I'm still unsure. If Dr. West can't be on the ballot, then yeah, I would vote for him, you know.
But imagine, are you in North Carolina?
I'm in New York. New York is blue.
Imagine being there and you can't vote for him.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And that is local news. I didn't even hear that. I haven't watched the news here yet. So I don't even know if they probably won't even report it. They probably, because the news here doesn't even talk about the other candidates side of Biden and Trump. So it's these major
That's Dr. Cornel West,
networks.
who joins us, the independent candidate for president, philosopher, activist, former Harvard professor. I thought you might like that. Thanks. Always good to have you on.
That was a beautiful introduction.
Dr. West, right.
Yes, my dear brother.
We know that there are a lot of things, but not a Republican senator. All right. First up, there's a couple of things here that we could talk about. Civil Rights Act, I want to start before I get into Biden or anything else, because there was the event, I believe, has been delayed, but they were going to have an event today marking the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. And one of the headlines, this is from Reuters, the Civil Rights Act victories are at risks. That's what leaders are saying on this 60th anniversary. What would you say about that?
Yeah, it's sad that we have to fight this battle every generation. You would think just being a citizen in an American experiment, people would be able to be treated as citizens. But we know, of course, when the country was founded, Black people were enslaved to Africans, and then another 100 years of neo-slavery after Jim Crow. We had 12 years in the sun where we tried to create a multiracial democracy under Reconstruction, but we lost. So the Union Army won the war and white supremacy won the peace. But it's true, we have to refight this over and over again. That's why the John Lewis Voting Rights Act was so very important. And it's sad that Biden and company couldn't push it through. Democratic Party, you would think, would have a deep commitment to this and fight to gain access to the passing of that bill. But it's a perennial struggle, my brother. There's no doubt about it.
What do you think of what's going on with Biden now? I mean, I know you're running as an independent, but what do you think about what's been happening since the debate to President Biden? One of his strongest areas of support, there have been many in the party, a lot of them behind closed doors, but even some publicly who say he should step aside. But the Congressional Black Caucus has been behind him. I'll put up a quote from Maxine Waters, but there have been a number of others that we could put up. People are talking about Biden's too old. Hell, I'm older than Biden, but I get up every morning, I exercise, work late hours. I take care of Black people. Trump has told you who he is. He defined himself. He's no good, deplorable, lying, despicable human being, no matter.
Go ahead.
My bad. My bad. My baby had woke up, so I had to go make him something to eat and all that. But my grandma on her way.
Huh?
I say my bad that I wasn't interacting because my baby woke up, so I had to go make him something to eat and some cucumbers and stuff like that. But my grandma on her way.
Okay, so did you want to say something about what's going on right now?
No. I was just letting you know that my grandma on her way because this is her thing.
Oh, because she voted for Trump and she's a Republican. Cool.
She's
How
a
old is your grandma?
Republican.
How old is
How old is
she?
my?
You might get her to say something about this.
She might, or she just might want to watch because I told her that everybody have an open mind over here.
How old is she?
And nobody's judging. So I was like, you might want to come, and she was like, "What's the link?" That's why I had dropped down so I could send her the link.
Yeah, send her the link. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, she nice, she sweet, she coming.
Okay, for sure.
But that's all. Go ahead.
What anybody said. It ain't going to be no other Democratic candidate. It's going to be Biden. Congresswoman Maxine Waters, California. What are your views on all of this?
Well, my brother, it's just sad to see the lies just generated so quickly. It's hard to keep track of. And Brother Trump's a pathological liar. We know that, and people accent that in a variety of different ways. But the Democratic Party responds with its own forms of lies, its own forms of denial. There's no doubt that Brother Biden does not have both paddles in the water. Cognitive decline is as real as a heart attack. And what do? They create this protective wall around him, tell all the lies about he's as sharp now as he was 4 years ago. It's not true. This is why American citizens are so thoroughly disgusted with American politics, with this legalized bribery and normalized corruption. Both parties at this point, given the lies that have been told, are beyond redemption. And where are the crucial issues? We're not talking about Gaza and genocide anymore.
Right.
We're not talking about poverty. We're not talking about 62% of fellow citizens who live every day paycheck to paycheck. We're not talking about the escalating wealth inequality. No. We're talking about the lies coming from Trump and the counter lies coming from the Democrats.
The Democrats say we should be talking about those issues. We shouldn't be talking about Biden's fitness. But you think?
No, but they're saying that in order so that they can hide and conceal Biden's condition.
So you think he should just step aside?
Oh, absolutely. And when they talk about his excellent record, you say, well, wait a minute. Now, he had some decent moves, no doubt about that. But when you're a genocide denier and a genocide enabler, and when you preside over a country in which there's escalating wealth inequality and organized greed is still running amok, that's not successful. If that's what successful is, what kind of experiment are we talking about in terms of America?
Before I let you go today, how are you doing on ballot access? So we've always wondered about that. And
I appreciate you always asking that. Because see, what happens is when you read in the newspaper, they'll say, well, West is at 4 or 5, because they don't count the fact that the smaller parties are also part and parcel of our effort. So we got the Aurora Party in Alaska. We got the Progressive Party in Oregon. We got the United Citizens Party in South Carolina. We got the United Party in Colorado. We
So
got
how many
the Green
states total?
Party in Vermont. So we're up now to about almost 11, brother. We're going to make a major announcement beginning of next week. We're going to surprise a lot of people. We are bearing witness and being witness to truth.
How many swing?
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below.
Breaking right now in the WRAL Live Center, we have just learned that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will be allowed to run for president in North Carolina. State elections officials voted to approve his political party for the 2024 ballot. The board also voted to reject Cornel West. He will not be allowed to run. RFK running could throw a wrench into the campaigns here for both Biden and Trump. North Carolina was one of the most closely divided states in the last presidential election. RFK Jr. is expected to poll support from both Trump and Biden.
State election officials today deciding Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will be allowed to run for president in North Carolina. The Board of Elections voting 4-1 in favor of allowing Kennedy's We the People party to appear on the November ballot. The lone dissenter, Siobhan Millen, believes the party is fake and only created to help Kennedy get around the state's ballot access rules. Many political analysts believe Kennedy could play spoiler in swing states like North Carolina. While his views align more closely with those of Republicans, experts say he is expected to take voters from both Trump and Biden.
Election news, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will be on the ballot in North Carolina in a significant decision today impacting the 2024 election. But state election officials are blocking another candidate, Cornel West, whose party is planning to sue them. Our Capitol reporter Michael Hyland is live in Raleigh with a closer look at what that means for your vote come November. Michael?
Right. Split decisions today from the State Board of Elections, and it could still be a few more weeks until there's a final resolution to all of this. Today, the board voted to formally recognize the We the People party, which will have RFK Jr. as its nominee on the ballot for president. A Democratic member of the board voted against that, saying she thought Kennedy was exploiting part of state law. Kennedy originally planned to try to get on the ballot as an independent candidate, but changed plans after learning it requires significantly fewer signatures from voters to recognize a political party instead. The Democrats on the board all voted against recognizing Dr. Cornel West's Justice for All party. The chair of the board says an investigation has been underway for several weeks into the signature gathering process. The board's Republicans said both parties should have been recognized.
What is at play here is that North Carolina voters' desire for political options is being cynically exploited to circumvent North Carolina law in order to put individual candidates on the ballot.
We are bound to approve these parties whether we like the candidates running or not, or whether we intend to vote for them, or whether we're concerned they're going to take votes away from one of our preferred candidates.
A poll released this week by YouGov finds former President Donald Trump leading in North Carolina with 44% compared to 40% for President Biden and 4% for RFK Jr. A spokesman for the Justice for All party says they do plan to sue the State Board of Elections, and that lawsuit could be filed later this week. Live in Raleigh, Michael Hyland, Queen City News.
In your voice, your vote, a reversal at the State Board of Elections weeks after denying.
That's what makes me so very different than most politicians. Most politicians are conformists and cowardly. And all they want to do is win the next election to reproduce themselves as they gain more access to wealth and power. That's not
Be
me.
back, DJ. I gotta drop down for a second.
I'm after the truth and justice. Isn't that
Peace
me?
to you, Kay.
I gotta take the hits. I gotta be willing to take the hits. You see? And I do it with a smile.
That's true.
I do it with a smile because those who love me and sacrifice for me, look at this beautiful space you got right here in downtown Dallas.
Thank you. Young black men.
Like young black men, to meet my brother Clifton, we used to drive to see our grandmother, Nick Bias, who was a deacon at Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church in Orange, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Every summer, we'd drive by Dallas. You couldn't find black folk downtown Dallas. I just left Roosevelt High School in Oak Cliff, and Brother Chief had to stand up there. The Klan was putting all the pressure on because they didn't want black folk in the high school. Now, hey, now we got this. The only reason why you have this, the only reason why you have Roosevelt High is what? They loved us enough to sacrifice for us. We got to do the same thing. We embrace our Nigerian brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed. This is a human thing. This is a black thing. This is an African thing. But at the same time, we also know we got to make sure we choose an integrity, honesty, decency, and courage. Because you got some black cowards out there.
There you go.
Oh, you got some black folks who's afraid and intimidated. But when they raise their voices and straighten their backs up and fight for truth and justice, shoot, makes me want to sing a song like Al Green.
There you go.
Love and happiness.
Well, we have, real quick, we brought in 2 7th graders from Scoggins Middle School, where they probably each want to ask a question to you.
Absolutely.
Let me see which one wants to ask first. You want to say your name and then ask a question?
My name's Candace from October, and my question is, what changes would you like to make if you became president?
My dear Sister Kennedy, I want to make sure that you live in a world where 1, you can breathe fresh air. 2, you can walk the streets safely. 3, you don't have to see homeless people at all because people have a right to have a house. You won't have people dying because they don't have access to health care. I want you to be able to go to schools. Some of these schools I go to, especially in the hood, they got more police, they got nurses and counselors. I want to go to a school where the teachers are just hugging you every day and telling you how brand and magnificent and beautiful you are, so you have unbelievable self-confidence. That's the difference that I'm fighting for. The people say, oh, that's naive, that's a dream, or you know that ain't gonna happen, Brother West. Give up. I'm glad that great-grandmama and them didn't give up. When they were enslaved to Jim Crow, to Jane Crow, they could have given up too. I'm gonna be just like that, fighting for you, fighting for my kids, fighting for all poor and working class kids especially. And then still have some joy in my heart. Because it's a joyful thing to see you all doing so well.
Beautiful. And introduce yourself. That's my name.
My name is Justice Madawaglu, and I would like to know what inspired you to be president, to run for president.
Ooh, I like that slip. I like that slip, my sister. Yeah, indeed. To be president, absolutely. And your first name is Justice. Oh, you know, my whole platform is truth, justice, and love. Wow, it's a blessing. Kennedy and justice. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. You know, what inspired me is that I've always just wanted to make the world so much better than it is. So much better than it is. And it begins by ensuring that young people, especially young Black folk, believe in themselves, have great confidence in themselves to be able to do what they want to do regarding changing of the world. So it's that kind of real deep faith and commitment to making the world a better place.
There you go. Thank y'all. Thank you. Thank you, kids.
Thank you.
Well, representing Scoggins Middle School. Thank you so much.
Yes, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful, beautiful moment in touch, man. Bringing the young folk like that.
I had to. That's who you're doing it for.
That's exactly right. But I can tell you this, most folks.
We already tainted.
Most folks who have podcasts and most folks who have interviews, they don't do what you just did, brother.
Wow.
That's a special thing, man. It's a special thing.
So let me ask you then, because Tennessee is looking to passing a law to where they're possibly allowing teachers to carry guns to public schools, private schools. And tell us, how does that look for in America to where teachers can now carry firearms to school to, again, the goal is to protect children, but how does that look?
Yeah, it's just so sad when you see that military response to conflict becomes your primary response. That's the sad thing, you know. You see it in the wars, you see it in the invasions and Gaza's genocide, you see it in Ukraine, we're probably going to see it more and more with China and Taiwan. You see, we've seen the conflicts in Latin America and Africa and so forth. The United States is unique among the empires to view itself as innocent, even though it has a history of very chronic violence. And so you got cop cities. I'm just down in Atlanta. You try to shut down cop cities because you're militarizing the police. They begin to look like an army. You go into the schools, you got more policemen than nurses. As I said, that's militarization. See? You got young folk killing each other. The only response to conflict, killing each other. That's the history of America. That's John Wayne. That's the frontier with indigenous people. We in Dallas right now, right? Used to be Mexico. Now, how did 50% of Mexico just disappear in 1846, 1848? War. Ulysses S. Grant, who was one of the leaders in that war and also the major general in Civil War, what did he say in his memoirs? The Mexican War was the most immoral and illegal war I ever participated in. Well, how come you in it, Ulysses? Well, I was following orders. Oh, okay. But it's land grab, it's power grab. It's just like gentrification right now that's happening on the ground in the city. People come in, all this big money, buying all the properties up, pushing out poor people, pushing out working people, unconcerned of where they're going. For what? Short-term profit. So the short-term profit, when you privatize for profit, you often militarize to protect those who have property, you see. And so, in fact, to see, the militarization of American society, and in some ways, the militarization of the world, is something that we have to fight. I believe in demilitarizing.
What are your thoughts on gun laws?
I think that we ought to have as tough a gun laws as we can, my dear brother, but all the laws in the world will not stop people from killing each other. Canada has roughly the same population as California. More Californians kill each other with knives than Canadians kill each other with anything. You see, because if you have a culture where you go to military means first and all you got is knives rather than guns, you're still killing folks. Canadian culture is very different. It's got its problems, but the violence is much lower. And we know other parts of the world are like that, right? The violence is much lower. So we need tight gun laws, but we've got to create conditions. That's why I said when you abolish poverty and people have a right to safety and education and arts and so forth, then that's going to reduce your crime. It's going to reduce your crime because that energy no longer is channeled through that venue. And again, it's just a matter of telling that truth. Unfortunately, most American people, they don't even get exposed to what I'm talking about, y'all. Right. You know what I mean? Don't even get exposed. That's why this podcast is so important. I'm glad you got myself and Mark and all the others. You want a variety of different views and voices. That's very important. And especially your precious audience. Your precious audience, you got a variety of different views, and they're not to be viewed just as right wing or left wing and so. But no, these are human beings in the United States trying to think through critically how they're going to live lives of decency and dignity.
And like you speak on our audience, we come from technically, we look at things simply. When you look at a stand your ground law, speaking on gun control and things of that nature, what are your thoughts on the stand your ground, y'all? Does it protect murder? Does it, not saying incentivize, does it okay murder? Because you're right, once you have laws like that to say you can defend yourself with deadly force if you feel deadly force is upon you, or it's muddy water. So, we see the Trayvon Martin. Right. Where do you land with that? With, Florida's laws and Texas and, a few states have their, it's muddy, it's muddy.
Right. Well, I mean, one, I do believe that people and peoples have a right to self-defense. You know what I mean? I think in my own case, if somebody mess with my mama, I'm a Christian. I'm not a pacifist. I'm going to throw down. You know what I mean? I got to throw down. Yeah. Now, but what does that mean? That means that if I do that and I end up throwing down against somebody who doesn't deserve it, then I got to pay the consequence. See, that's Trayvon, you see.
Yeah.
If you end up doing something and standing ground and you murdering, maiming somebody who's innocent, then you don't just walk away. You got to pay a price. That's for me, that's for Zimmerman, that's for anybody else. So part of the stand your ground problem is that too often it's the precious young Black folk who are being shot, who are not given the priority. And it's the vanilla folk doing the shooting who are center stage. Yeah, I reject that. I reject that.
You speak on Palestine, and I believe, your stance, you stand with Palestine.
Stand with Palestinian brothers and sisters undergoing genocide, actually.
Correct. And I know some people, of course, could feel away, but there's protests going on university campuses across America that is, standing on some of the same things, and also on the other side too. So can you speak to a little bit about, your stance, and also when you see the political, the protests, what are your thoughts on the right to protest without, physical force coming upon them?
Without injurious harm and so forth. No, I've been very much a part of those protests. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's a certain kind of moral and spiritual awakening for people to see genocide on their television and not just keep sipping their tea. They got to do something. Hit the streets, make some signs. Let the Palestinian brothers and sisters who are undergoing that level of unbelievable criminality and barbarity, let them know they're not alone in the world. I say the same thing in the Belgian Congo, same thing in Sudan. I would have said the same thing with Jews in Germany, same thing with Armenians in the 19 teens, all those genocidal attacks. We got to stand in solidarity with people who are suffering and people who are undergoing that kind of massive assault. And again, it's not tribal. You see, it's human. It's human. It could be Muslims in China that you have to be in solidarity with. You see? It could be brothers and sisters in Nigeria who are being attacked. You have to be in solidarity with the folk who are being attacked and trying to generate forms of resistance, forms of resilience. You see? And I think that anytime you have a moral and spiritual awakening, especially among young folk, because the young folk between 18 and 22, there's a whole lot going on biologically, intellectually, socially. For you to take time and say, not only are we going to take a stand, go to jail. That's why I stand with them.
So speaking of the 18 to 22-year-olds, as a president, there might be, I want you to speak to the young man who's in school who's looking to possibly go into the military. With these things going on overseas and the UN's involvement to where the United States may look to say, we're part of the UN, we may have to get involved. Can you speak to the young man or young woman who is looking to join the military and what your presidency may look like as far as their future and how war is considered and things of that nature?
Well, as in the West administration, I would ensure that I would never send a young American citizen of any color in a war whose fundamental aim was simply that of either well-to-do corporate interests or having to do with lies. Vietnam was predicated on a lie. That's why the great Muhammad Ali didn't go, because he believed in the truth, you see. Iraq, lie, no weapons of mass destruction. Mexican War, a lie. One can go on and on. Truth is different than lies. And so much of American history in this society has been predicated on lies. So the truth cuts against it. Now, keep in mind now, the truth tellers in America are as American as the American liar. See, Martin Luther King Jr. is as American as the Ku Klux Klan. It's just the Klan is the gangster side of America. And Brother Martin is the moral side. But both of them come out of America. It's like jazz and the blues. Is jazz and blues American? My God, yes. Is bluegrass American? My God, yes. I lean toward the jazz and blues. I ain't got nothing against bluegrass. It just ain't my thing. You know what I mean? But it's American. And we have to always keep that in mind.
I like that segue because that was my next question was, your history or your favoritism towards music is the blues and jazz side of things. So for those that want to get to know you personally, like who's the artist that you grew up to? What is some music that kind of just is therapeutic for you? Which direction do you go when it comes to your musical contemporary?
Well, you got to keep this in mind, my dear brother, that the Black musical tradition is the greatest tradition in the modern world for artistic creativity, spiritual fortitude, moral courage, with style and a smile. Now, my brother, I always call him the second cousin of Sam Cooke. Because Sam Cooke is off the charts. See, but Curtis Mayfield is a genius for all geniuses. You see, Sly Stone is beyond category. And John Coltrane, we don't have a language for. We ain't even got the Sarah Vaughan, Carmen McRae. We ain't got the Billie Holiday, Dinah Washington. I'm Phyllis High, man. I can go on and on. I'm here in Dallas, Erykah Badu. Ooh, you just got to stop. Pause. Pause.
You're right here with it.
Ooh, Lightning Hopkins. Ooh, pause. What a tradition. And what is it all about? Telling the truth with a groove. What is it all about? Encouraging and inspiring a people who've been taught to hate themselves and know that they can create levels of beauty in a situation of such social ugliness. You see, that's Black music at its deepest level. We ain't got the Bob Marley.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Lord, and he's spilling over. He spent 3 years in Wilmington, Delaware. His first group was called Bob Marley and the Impressions, and he was covering Curtis Mayfield's music.
They didn't know.
And then he had a genius leap. Boom, here come reggae. Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Changed some lives.
He connected to Haile Selassie with the Rastafarians. So he got it. And then we can go on and on and on. Artists and our musicians are the vanguard of our movement. They're not added on. They're not ornamental or decorative. They constitute who we are. And Black people without music would have gone crazy long time ago. Some of us still almost going crazy with the music, but without the music, oh, Lord have mercy.
So let me ask you, they normally have on the inaugural speech, some artist that comes and performs during inauguration. I'm just curious, who does Cornel West bring to his inauguration? Like, what artists do you say I need them there for this?
Well, I can't bring Coltrane back from the dead, so I'd probably bring Bootsy Collins with me.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it funky. Yeah.
So let me ask you, when it comes to foreign politics, when it comes to you having to deal with other leaders and their vices, you have your Putin, you have your Zelensky's. How important do you feel is open communication between nation leaders versus you're on your time, they're on their time, and we'll meet in the middle if need be?
Yeah, see, when you downplay military conflict, it only takes a button to blow up the whole globe. You know that. And with the ecological crisis going on, the possibility of escalating wars over water, basic kind of things, become dangerous. But you have to keep diplomatic processes at the center of your foreign policy. Because, see, I'm running to be head of the American empire in order to dismantle the empire. We don't need 800 military units around the world. We don't need 130 special operations in countries around the world. We don't need to dominate the world. You see, I'm an anti-imperialist. What America needs to be is a dignified, decent nation among nations. And in that way, you begin to minimize, especially if you are the military might. You set a tone for the whole species and say, hey, let's downplay the militarizing and let's upplay the empowering of poor and working people. Deep paradigm shift again, you see. Fundamental one.
And can we get your take on unemployment as far as, I have to have somebody pull up where unemployment is. I don't know if it's up or down.
All right, so if you guys want to watch the rest of that interview, it's on Real Life Street Stars 2024 president candidate, Cornel West. Please just look him up. Please look him up, because I don't believe that we should just be sticking to whatever candidate. We have a one candidate with dementia. We have another one that's like actually like about to like has a felony that could be. I don't even know what the hell's going to happen if he goes to jail. Now we're stuck with the vice president. I don't know. So we have we're in a conundrum here, you know. And we have a candidate that actually like is talking about like what he really wants to do that actually sounds good, but no one is hearing him because he does not have the same platform as these other candidates. He don't have the backing of the money and everything like that, but he actually is a really kind-hearted person that really wants to make change. So I hope that you guys check him out. I'm gonna probably come back a little bit in a few to talk about some other stuff. This is kind of heavy, you know what I'm saying? But some more lighthearted things, you know. But I want you guys to check the whole thing out, okay? All right, much love, you guys, and I'm not sure. Well, Hippie said that her grandma was gonna come. I don't know where her grandma. Is her grandma still coming, or let me see? Let me call her real quick before I end this live. I want to get her the opportunity to have her grandma come up here and speak on the whole situation. So before I end this, let me give a phone call. One second, guys. I'm just play this real quick. Keep playing it, and have y'all understand what his platform.
Down, but what are your thoughts as far as unemployment affecting the middle American? We're coming off COVID as well, you know.
See, the problem of looking at unemployment in and of itself is that it's possible in this society for people to have 2 jobs and still live in poverty. So what it looks like, oh my God, they got all those jobs out there. What kind of jobs are they? That's the question. If somebody got 2 jobs, you say, oh, you're doubly privileged. But they're still living in poverty because the wages are low. You see? So you got to keep track of the human beings beneath the statistics. And because I believe in a safety net, which means people cannot fall any lower. I believe in a universal basic income. So people cannot fall any lower at all. So they wouldn't have to worry about being poor. Now, I believe in the human right to a house, so they don't worry about being homeless. The human right to health care, so they wouldn't have to have a job in order to get quality health care. All of those are efforts to look at a society from the vantage point of satisfying the basic needs of people, not just short-term profit for the few at the top. That's a radical paradigm shift. Martin Luther King called it a revolution as he defined it. You say, Brother Martin, what do you mean? What is a revolution? It is the sharing of power. Poor people, if they had power, they wouldn't choose to be poor. It's the sharing of resources. They had access to resources. They wouldn't have to worry about the insecurity and anxiety. See? And in the end, it's the sharing of a certain kind of dignity.
Why do you think, as a states that we're in such a place where they're removing middle class and it can only be rich or can only be poor? Like, you think if you want to have a nation that sustains itself, you would want people to feel like they had access to basic things, like you were talking about housing, different resources. Why do you think we're at a place where people feel like those basic needs aren't necessary?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. I mean, one is that I was in Pittsburgh just yesterday, and Pittsburgh used to be the center of manufacturing production with steel. And once you got these steel plants that went in various parts of the world for short-term profit, again, looking for low wages to keep the profits high, it pulled the rug from under so many middle-class brothers and sisters of all colors. It pulled the rug from under. So you ended up with a social structure that looks like a pyramid. You see, between 1945 and 1975, American society looked like a diamond. You had a few at the top, then you had the mass middle class, then you had the poor. From 1975 to now, it's a pyramid. You see, where a few at the top, but big money, and everybody else drops. The middle class drops out. And when the middle class begins to engage in downward mobility, it makes things fertile for Trump, because he comes along and says, scapegoat the most vulnerable, charge, blame those black folks, blame those immigrants, blame those so-and-so, blame the others. You don't confront them.
All right, so I really want you guys to go ahead and go on Real Life Street Stars and watch the rest of this. We're gonna end this live, and we're gonna bring people up because people want to just talk about stuff in general. What's going on? This is kind of heavy, so I'm gonna end this live, and we're gonna restart a whole new live just to talk about current events. You know what I'm saying? What's going on? All right. So y'all, so we're gonna end here, but come right on back. Come right back. Come. What you say? Say it again.
Come right back, because y'all gonna want to be here for this one. See my AC, my DJ. She don't be with all that, but that's what I'm here for. So y'all come on right back. Let's laugh. We gonna talk our. Come on, y'all. Talk y'all shit. Say what's on y'all mind. Let's get it.
About all this stuff. So, all right. So we're going to end this one. Y'all, please understand what's going on with this election. Shouts out to Cornel West. And we're going to end it right on. And we're going to start. What's the thing? DJ, take us out, okay?
Compromise your energy. Darling, let your spirit be free. Don't give up. Keep on pushing through. Now is the time. It's all up to you. Alchemize your energy. My friend, let your spirit be free. Don't give up. Keep on pushing through. Now is the time. It's all up to you. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, we will always take flight. Keep on pushing through the darkness of night. There's no limit, let's reach for the sky. Shine so bright, from darkness to light.